handshake. She said, "I remember this is all I remember." And her, if you want to go to it,
I put it up.
okay, so it's Jen M Jackson PhD. So at JENNMJACKSON PhD.
Perhaps let me interrupt real quick. Perhaps Julia can read the original tweet because subsequently you and I have been blocked by this doctor of I don't know what she's a doctor of, but she blocked us pretty quickly, so we can't read the original tweet. Can you see it, Julia? Julia, are you there? Crypto, you can hear
I can
me,
hear
right?
you. No, I mean, all I remember was something about consensual with a woman, and then obviously if you reach your hand out and the other person reaches their hand out, then it's consensual. But then putting your hand on like the woman's lower back is not consensual. Don't do that. Things like that. And
that all came hours later, though. That was her attempt at a sort of, I don't want to say correction, but maybe clarification.
Oh, that's all I saw. I mean, I don't even think I saw the original shit then. I mean,
the original one was embarrassing, and after she got embarrassed by me and probably 600 people liking it, that's when she tried to backtrack and kind of frame it a little bit better. And even then, still embarrassing.
I don't know, but her thing here was, she's talking about X, Y, and Z, of what you can do to a woman, right? And I think everyone who's not in jail or who shouldn't be in jail has a pretty good grasp on that. And then
right.
I clicked on her profile that brought me to That Black Couple, which is a podcast. Or So it's Black Pod by a gender fluid polyamorous woman, her. So she's gender fluid, meaning sometimes you can touch her back when she's a woman, but when she's you can't touch her back when she's a woman. When she's a man, then you can give her like a chest bump. Then at some point she mentioned sex. I don't remember like when she was talking about it, but she's open to obviously more than one relationship at the same time, or maybe everyone's on the same page and all 6 people are having sex with each other. And then she says woman. So like, I'm like, hold on. I'm like, hold on. You're gender fluid, polyamorous woman. Like, doesn't the word woman have to come out? Like gender fluid, polyamorous being. Or just have her at tag there. I don't get it. But anyway, yeah, super. If it wasn't for her teaching, she'd be useless. She teaches. I don't know where she teaches, but she's got a PhD in this stuff, gender studies.
This stuff. I like it.
This stuff. It's like gender studies, and then like a master's in like Black history, and then I don't know. It's like
that should just be history, but yeah, certain time period. But I think about this crypto, and maybe SD has his hand up. Maybe he can read it for us. But basically, I remember when a PhD meant something. I remember when it was like, whoa, this person's basically, essentially, a scholar of some kind of study, and we should probably pay attention. And I don't want to knock all the PhDs out there, but I'm sorry, you legitimate PhD holders, because your degree and those 3 letters have been substantially devalued, because it seems like as long as you have either the finances or the just desire to continue staying a student, you'll get one. Which brings me to my next thing is, I wonder if this woman, if she goes by woman, I wonder if this woman, well, I say, who financed this woman's PhD? I do just wonder that. So,
well, either her loans or the government or the school, right? I mean, those
I wonder,
those
because
those are the 3 options, right?
It's just seeming, do we have anybody that exists anymore that didn't obtain their PhD, that tried to? In other words, I went to grad school, but you know what? I didn't make it. You know what? I gave it all I had and I failed. Well, I haven't heard one yet.
There's people that got kicked out of law school, or they failed out. They didn't.
Well, law schools is there. I'm going to put a little.
Actually, no, don't, because I want to ask this. So I know of people that have either given up or they failed out. I don't think they were ever like, hey, you have to leave. But I guess my question becomes, I think Julie's having problems with her connection. You know, I guess my question becomes is that I'm just trying to put stuff up in the nest. You know, does it get to the point where do you know any lawyers that are bad lawyers?
Sure.
So I think it's safe to say not everyone's going to be good at their job, not everyone's going to be bad at their job.
Yeah.
But
Completely.
but I guess do you think that a law degree is equivalent to a PhD degree? See, from my side, I don't see a difference. Like I see so many bad lawyers and people that and people that are like
I'm sure.
and people that just should not be lawyers. That it's just like it's like whether you have a PhD degree and you go and you spout your shit, it's the same thing. Like I had a bunch of like now that I look back upon it, at the time I was like, you know, like, oh man, these people are really into it, or like what a bunch of clowns or whatever. But I remember two teachers in particular that would like come to every class in like African garb. And they were like all about like baptism. Let me get Julia up to co-host. They were all about like baptism whitey with fire in like law school.
Mm.
One taught criminal something. It wasn't criminal, like criminal procedure, and the other one taught contracts. And they were like, it was so amazingly different how they, you know, how they treated people in the class. And then I remember one white kid was talking, and these law teachers are all different, right? Like, you know, some have been there forever and they're making like 400 or 500K and they got a fat pension, and they're like, you know, they just have a conversation and they're relaxed and they don't make you read a lot. Others make you read a lot. And then they're like, when you talk to me, stand up. You're going to be standing in court, so stand up. So these two, which I have no doubt probably donated to BLM as they were like starting. They're probably head BLM now. As I think back about it, it's weird. I've like never thought about this. They're like, you stand up and you're talking to me about this. I was like, Jesus, we're talking about like a 1712 like British contracts case, and we're talking, and then like another class
101 student stuff.
Yeah,
right?
it's like stupid as fuck. And then the other one was, you know, like you're just learning. Like, so you could teach law school today in 6 months. You could teach what people need to know in 6 months, and then they could take either Barbary or Kaplan on top of that for another 90 days, and they could pass the bar. That's it. Doing the whole law school the first year where you literally start like the Fox case in property. Like the first week you learn about the fox that was jumping over the fence, and as he jumped over the fence, he was on one person's property. Then as he jumped on their property, this other guy shot him, and then he landed on the other property. So who's it's like literally from Blackwell, from fucking England. And it's like, all of this stuff that would never. So what you do in law school is you learn the history, right? Like legitimately the first shit that came around. And then you read new cases that overturn the last case. So like after like 2 weeks, you catch on, right? Like the first week, you're all fucking eager and meager, and you're like, oh, well, this new case from 1717 just overturned that 1705 case. Okay.
Yeah, brand new.
Right. Okay, got it. And then at the second week, you're like, whoa, hold on, pump the brakes. And then you go to like the end of the book into like modern day shit, where it's like 1960s, 70s, 80s, 2000s, and you're like, oh, this is the stuff I need. We're gonna get to it. And property's actually 2 semesters. That's how slow they drag that shit out. Contracts too. They drag that shit out for 2 fucking semesters. They drag it out. Torts, torts, I think it's usually 1, but it could be 2 semesters. I'm trying to think what else. Like pretty much a semester of history. Everyone knows the Fox case. Everyone knows the property case where 2 hunters, and this is a criminal case too, when 2 hunters shoot. Well, the property part of it is when 2 hunters shoot prey at the same time. Well, who does it belong to? Right? Well, because both of them shot at the same time. Oh, what a fucking catastrophe, right? It's fucking 1700s. We got to call a lawyer in for this one because these two fucking idiots, George Bush and Barack Obama, can't decide which half of the whole, the fucking wolf they're going to take. And then you have the other one, which is a criminal case where two people shoot at the same time, right? Hey, Ship, we're talking about Ship, not to age you on this one, Chief, but we're going back. I'm giving like the basic. I remember like the first week of my law school experience where like they give you all the England Blackwell law, all the shit you never ever have to know, but they teach it to you anyway, and it like fucking drags on for 3 months. And two people shot the guy at the same time. Oh my God, who's going to be fucking charged? Well, yeah, later on you can figure out you can charge them both, right? But not then. So it's like it's a fucking joke. Law school could be done in 3 to 6 weeks. Take a prep class. I honest to God, I learned more in my prep I can't talk tonight, guys. It's been a long weekend. I learned more in my prep class with Kaplan or Barbary, whoever the fuck I took it with, than I ever learned in law school. I was like, oh my God. Like, I never took Florida Civil Procedure because I didn't think I was going to do I was like, okay, let's learn Civ Pro. And in a month, I learned it, right? Or Florida Constitutional Law. I learned more about constitutional law in the prep course than I did with the professor for an entire semester, right? I don't know. It's just,
Are your students saying? Can your students say the same thing, Crypto?
No, my students can't say the same thing because I teach them exactly what I want them to know. And right. I'm like, listen, this is what I'm teaching, and this is what you have to know. If you need to know stuff later on for someone else, that's not on me.
Are you saying you're setting these kids up for the job itself?
Yeah, I am actually telling them what they need to know now.
So counterculture and higher education.
Now, if they want to go back and read the English courts of the 1600s and 1500s, they can go do that, but it won't be on my final.
You should just teach them how to prepare for the case, learn their, opposition. That's the best way to go about it.
I often tell them that they should engage Mark to spy on the enemy.
Yes, that's big.
Yeah, when I was getting ready to go away to law school, a family friend who had been a judge for about 15 years told me, "Look, you're going to learn a lot in law school that you'll never use again as a lawyer because the study of law has very little to do with the practice of law." But he said, if there are 2 classes you are going to pay attention to and master, those should be evidence and procedure, both civil and criminal. Those two will serve you well if you go on to litigate cases, which is what I told him I wanted to do.
Right.
But I've used that line over and over again. The study of law has very little to do with the practice of law.
Well, right, because when we study law in college or in law school, we never practice it until like maybe the end of your 3rd year. So you've never really gone into a courtroom, you've never filed motions, you've never consulted with the other party. All of the practice stuff, which doctors do, because you would want doctors to be semi-competent before they do any sort of surgery on you. Lawyers get tossed out there without any sort of practice. So they learn their entire first, their first. I know lawyers that can't do basic practice stuff now, but the other class I forgot to mention, that Ship brought up is evidence. The problem with evidence is that I don't even think the teachers, the professors, know it that well because it's so complicated, right? So let's talk really quick, Ship, because I don't want to bore everyone, but how about like when they teach like the nonverbal cues, right? Is it a statement? So you're at a stoplight, you look to the right, there's a truck driver there, and you can't tell if you want to go. The truck driver nods his head to you. You take that as, yeah, go ahead, you drive, and it turns into a crash, right? So that's that's a classic nonverbal statement that they give, right? The problem is that evidence gets so convoluted, and it's 2 semesters, and it's so complicated and fact oriented. The professors really aren't going to go back Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just reading something up top. The professors really can't explain it that well. It's almost like you have to experience it.
Well, you do learn the rules of evidence through repetition in the courtroom because I mean you have to use them over and over again.
But
You can spend a lot of time trying to memorize the 23 or 24 exceptions to the hearsay rule under Rule 803, but until you actually have to begin to use them and understand how they apply to the facts of a case, they don't really mean much.
Right.
They don't have any substantive meaning until you link them to testimony or to documents. Then, okay, now I know how this works. But learning things like authentication and 404 and how to make use of 403 to carve holes in the government case. That just comes from practice and the advice of seasoned practitioners who have done it all before you, and reading case law.
Right, and also on those, whether something's prejudicial value, its probative value is outweighed by its substantial. Oh my God, I'm fucking my words up tonight. Whether the probative value is substantially outweighed by the prejudice. Right.
Unfair prejudice, because all evidence is prejudicial.
Right, exactly. The problem is you ask 5 different judges, you get 5 different answers sometimes. So,
Chip, do you have a grandfather clock next to you?
Do I? No.
Do you have a grandfather clock?
It sounds like it. It sounds like you're next to a bomb.
Oh, I got a fan going over. Turn that fan off. It's still like 87 and humid in Hawaii. So
you're in Hawaii?
Yeah, that's where I live.
Oh, I didn't know that, Chip.
Oh, I thought everybody knew that. Yeah, after I just spent 15 days in D.C. Now I'm back in Hawaii.
Mark, tell us.
Have you met Obama? Have you met Obama, Chip?
Obama, I live in the same general area where Obama would come every Christmas time. And the golf course they always played golf at, Mid-Pac Country Club, is not too far from where I live, and would screw up the traffic nonstop. After he left office, he actually picked a different vacation home, much closer even than where I live, but they don't have the same kind of entourage anymore after they're out of office. So it's not quite as much a pain in the ass when he's here. But it was quite a pain in the ass for 8 years when he came at Christmas time.
So you're telling me he did not go back to his national origin birthplace of Kenya?
Well, I'll tell you what. I back when all of that was going on, having had 4 kids born in Hawaii, I knew what all the paperwork looked like, and the paperwork that they produced looked like all the same paperwork for my kids. So,
circumstantial at best, Chip. Circumstantial at best.
Well, they have what's called. They have a document that's produced that's called Certificate of Live Birth. And that's the document that they send you when you ask for it. It's a public health record, but it's different than the birth certificates, which are not public health records. So that, and then the hospital will generate these little certificates saying your child so-and-so was born on X and such date, but those are just from the hospital. Those are not official.
So they kidnapped someone's kid named Obama and just rebirthed him. I don't know. I don't know what the government's doing nowadays. It's kind of sus. Bruh. Why?
Well, a couple other
president. That's sus.
I'm quite familiar with the school where he went to school, Punahou. I know exactly the building that he lived in with his grandmother. I have a former colleague who was in AUSA that was in the same graduating class with him in '79.
So Mark, what was Mark Ship? And I'm going to mute you here for a second just so we can hear Mark. Mark, what was? You said you found whatever, before we went off on a fucking rant, probably lost everyone. What was the chivalry now sexual assault thing? So what was the first thing that the doctor, I'll just call her the doctor. What did the doctor put up, like, originally?
Yeah. So in the morning, I'm just scrolling and I see from Doctor. I'll say this at Jenn Jackson PhD. So Dr. Jen M
Okay,
Jackson.
so just real quick, let's, which you guys know this, let's not go over and bombard her or anything like that. And from the recording or 84,000 DMs or messages or comments, I mean, I just gave her literally one comment, and I didn't give a comment. I just took a screenshot and highlighted something and said, "Doc, is this you?" And she blocked me. So, yeah, so
She's very sensitive.
yeah, so whatever we're talking about here is just for the space. Yeah, that's
thanks,
all.
Crypto. Okay, so nonetheless, let me try that again then. So
nonetheless, what does that mean? It's like nonetheless, disregard what he just said.
No.
I would say
no, Crypto's keeping me straight.
I would say, in accordance with the rules and promulgations of our Twitter space of not to harass people, I'm going to say the following.
Of course, we would never. All
right. Well, can you pronounce that though, so we all hear it?
Yeah. I droned out for a second, but basically,
okay. Mark.
In accordance with our rules and procedures of the Twitter space, we are wonderful people. We would never harass anyone. So,
okay. Mark, hold on, Mark. Yeah. Mark, in the rules and promulgations.
I'm raising my right hand, by the way.
Okay, in the rules.
In the rules.
And promulgations. Written by Baby Yoda. And Drunk Johnny. We have therefore. Come to the conclusion. To wit. That here said. Unto. Therefore. Shall not. Be infringed. Of harassment.
No,
that wasn't over. Of thy others. In said Twitter space. In such land of Blackwell. Oh, save the king and queen.
Oh, save the king and queen.
Okay, that's no. That was it. Queen. That was it.
Okay, I'm not supposed to say you
had like you had this influx, like there was more. That was it.
Okay. I just threw open my fucking mouth.
Well, Crypto's keeping me safe here. I once saved him from Twitter jail, and he's always looking out for me.
Well, I was in Twitter jail when you saved me. I was already.
Yeah, and you'd still be there if it weren't for me.
I was already fighting off the ass rapings.
Yes, and you know what? You could still be getting them. So
what? No, I could not. Yeah, you mean if I was in there still?
Yeah, but for the fact that I came and rescued you, I used my press credentials and I saved you.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty out there. I mean I got a cute butt. It was out there. So
okay, so this is what the doctor said. She says, and I quote, "I will never understand why so many men feel it okay to touch women they've just met without consent. They don't touch men at all. So this is not just a personal habit. It's completely intentional."
That's actually not true. Like, if there's a dude that I'm chilling with, like, if we, like, this weekend, right? So I randomly sometimes meet people from Twitter. This weekend, I met a guy that most of you guys know on here, but we never met up. So we had lunch. And the first thing I did was shake his hand. And then we were having some beers, and we had some lunch, and we're at this place in South Florida, and like you know how guys will do like the sometimes, Mark, when they're side by side, they'll do like the little tap on the arm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was going back and forth, man. We were vibing.
Yeah.
I touch all the time.
So the point, and you're making it for me.
I don't have any friends to do that with.
Well,
but I get it. I understand.
I mean, you can ask Mark. I mean, I touch Mark. I touch Mark all the time, just not in the private. like there was a time that they had to bring a doll over, and they were like, "Mark, tell us where Crypto touched you," and Mark did not point to the private areas.
Of course not,
right?
Because that would be very inappropriate.
Right? Why would I do that? I I tap his shoulder, or I shake his hand, but like I have no reason to be in his nether regions.
Correct. Yeah. Unless you're fighting for your dear life.
Oh yeah, then I would just rip your dick off. But yeah.
Right. So fighting for dear life, which is always justifiable. Professionally, if you're searching someone, I'm talking cops and corrections officers. And then if you're a doctor checking for cancer, anything besides that is definitely an overt sexual act.
And by the way, does she mention touching a woman? Because
No.
if you're sitting next to someone, like people have gone on first dates before, and there's like this little flirting going on of like leaning into the person. Everyone has like their,
and you just met them, right?
Right. Like everyone has like their subconscious things. So she's talking any sort of touching. If you're hanging out with a woman, is what is for Florida's sakes, it would be sexual no, it can't be sexual battery, because that would be the touching of the organs. So it would just be battery then? Just battery? Or
sorry, so I gave you CPR. Whoops. I got charged with sexual assault now. Oh no.
Well, yeah, just make sure to go mouth and not mouth to something else.
Yeah, so this is what happened. This is the tweet. I caught it in the morning, and like you guys are already dissecting, it's wrong with male-to-male contact. It's wrong with quote-unquote, just meeting someone. Okay, I don't, everyone is different, but you can imagine that sometimes you just meet someone, and then sometimes in that same evening, you meet them all the way. Okay, this is a fact of life. Not everyone, but many do. So there's a whole bunch of problems with her statement, and this was mine. I quote retweet. I said the moment a quote doctor discovers heterosexual courting behavior, and I pointed an arrow down. I went about my day. By the time I looked at it again, it mildly blew up, at least as far as my standards go. 75 plus retweets, 600, 700 likes or whatever, and an instant block, right? So we're going to leave that there, let you guys discuss. But obviously, I've had about one or two people out of all the comments, out of all the likes, one or two, which brings you under 1%, who agreed with her and had a problem with her. And that, and that statement, or rather my statement, and everyone else completely concurred. What she's describing with the details that she prescribed or described is only heterosexual courting behavior. It's just sad that that's where we're at. I can make jokes, I can make suggestions, but I'll spare them. Let you guys do that. But the point is, what an embarrassing tweet from a doctor, and has PhD status become a bunch of nothingness? I guess that's the grander question.
All right. So my last comment, just because I got to take care of some things, Mark. So you and Julia can hop in here. We have some hands. I'll be back.
Yep.
I really believe this, right? So these are three of crypto's corner thoughts right now, right? One is, if you're going to be a sanctuary city, you need to accept people in and not be so happy and crying as you depart them away on a bus, right? Martha's Vineyard, which we'll get into. Two is oh fuck, I already forgot it, man. It's been that kind of day. Well, moving on to yours then. The thing here with
normal human heterosexual behavior versus aggravated sexual assault. I'll crank it up to aggravated, but ridiculous. Right. Or battery, as they call it in the rest of the world.
Right. So the last thing, as far as a PhD goes, I understand it. It's a criminal degree. Lawyers are lawyers. They don't, no one calls, me Crypto Esquire or anything like that. We have Esquire at the end of our name. We have a bar number, things like that. But if you're a doctor, you're a doctor, right? If I don't know where that's coming from. If you're a doctor, you're a doctor. But if you're a PhD, we need to create a separate designation. Like, I'm not calling you. Well, I do it just in like these fucking social settings, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, great. I can go to, bumfuck university and get a PhD. And then, but if you have a PhD, there needs to be some sort of designation. I can't go around calling medical doctors, and then I can't go around calling someone who studied Black history and lesbian studies and call her doctor as well. Like, I'm not calling Joe Biden a doctor. Like, I'm just not. Like, Joe Biden probably has an EDD or a PhD, and a lot of people in education do it, and they're all called doctor. We need to somehow get rid of that. Doctors are on another level. They went to school longer. It's harder. I don't know what the fix is, but I don't know. Maybe call the person like Mark when you get your PhD. If you get one, I'll just call you Mr.
I will not. But go ahead.
Mr. Naughton PhD. I mean, I think that's better. I'm not going to call you Naughton unless you're a fucking doctor.
Should you call people Mr., Mrs.,
or
Miss,
what
whatever?
about officer or trooper or detective? It's just where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
I don't draw the line. Like
everybody gets their title, retail specialist.
Yeah, no.
I'm retarded.
No, I mean, it's all for time and place, right? If I today,
commercial driver license Johnson.
No, today I went to Publix. When I checked out, I saw the name tag and I was like, "Hey, Martha." I wasn't like, "Hey, cashier, ma'am." I was like, "Hey, Martha, how's your day going?" Right? And I paid for my shit. When I get pulled over, if I know it's a Florida State Trooper, I'm like, "Yes, sir." Or if it's an officer, I guess it's yes, sir, either way, because they pulled me over, so I'm sure they have a question for me. But yes, sir. That's about it. And then maybe yes, officer. I don't think yes, trooper sounds. It's more trooper.
Some of them want it. Some of them.
not good for them, but it's kind of weird saying yes, trooper. I just say yes, sir. And
just
then
lick the boot. Just lick the boot, man. Just lick it. Just lick it.
Oh my God! All right, Crypto, did you have to handle something?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, guys, we should have given you enough to rile everybody up. Julia, do you have anything before we hit some of these guys? The hands went up pretty quickly.
Too much because I don't know who this is. I'm just kind of looking at her tweets.
Have you? So you haven't been blocked?
No, I haven't. I didn't comment on it or anything. I'm actually surprised I wasn't blocked. I think if I was tagged in this, or at least tagged in the space.
You're a resident woman.
Yeah.
If you identify as such. So,
I do. Yeah.
So were you offended by my tweet?
No, I wasn't offended. Looking at what you've commented, if I'm looking at the correct response that you had to her, no, I wasn't offended at all. And I can see why you guys would be offended or, bothered by her tweet in the first place, because it's definitely directed against men. And I think that the issue here is probably one of, what people view as consent. And that's tied into, at least in this case, sexual assault. I mean, would we agree on that? Would the disparity be with how we view sexual assault?
Yeah, well, sexual, Julia and guys, we've done so good with this. We have to describe the difference between, assault and battery. In the Northeast, or at least in New Jersey, we call, the contact, the assault, and pretty much everywhere else in America, they call it battery. So we're going to use them back and forth. But nobody's advocating for unwanted sexual contact, battery, aggravated sexual contact, aka rape. Okay, I'm not a big pro-rape guy. Of course. I'm very anti-rape. Okay, yeah. So, but when she put that out there, that it basically means that there's a human element that if I touch a woman's elbow, first thing is I'm not touching randos. Okay, if I touch a woman's elbow, she's already talked to me, spoke with me. I'm probably invested $75 to $300 in hanging out with her right off the bat. There's something going on there. She knows it. I know it. And if I were wrong at 35 years, I'd have charges. But go ahead, Joel.
So I think what she's trying to do, though, is draw attention to this disparity between men and women and what they view as, if you want to call it sexual assault, or at least, in a more broad sense, consent. But what she should have done, in my opinion, because there is a difference, and studies will show that, I'd have to delve a little bit more into it. I pulled up one of them, but there is definitely a difference between men and women, and that stems from what they believe to be consensual acts, or also what they believe to be considered sexual assault. And that can also come from education, whether or not they view something like perhaps watching somebody undress without their consent. Is that is that sexual assault? More women will think that's sexual assault than men. So I don't think it's right for her to broadly categorize men on a whole and just throw that out there and say, why is it that all men tend to do this or more men do this? Provide statistics if you're actually going to make a statement like that. Otherwise, you are going to get a lot of angry people, and rightfully so. So I don't agree with her tweet. I think you should point to statistics and then make a statement, but then also provide some kind of solution or something helpful rather than just try to rile people up.
Well, and you've made the comment before that a lot of things are about definitions.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
but sometimes it's just about a true misunderstanding. Other times people purposely play on the vagueness of definitions to create controversy and clicks.
Yeah. And it's not just necessarily, also the other thing is it's not just necessarily about men versus women. It's also about age too. There's a lot of different factors. And that's something that I feel is completely missing from her tweet. So yeah, it definitely feels like something that could just be clickbait. And then to play the victim after, posting something that really is so general and seems like clickbait that is going to rile up a certain sector perhaps of the population or of Twitter users. And then to say like, oh, wow, look, of course, all the conservatives, that are white appearing are coming out to attack me, and then play the victim. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah. That's where I kind of stand.
Thanks, Julie. I just, it's just, well, I think I made my point as far as it stands. So let's,
look at the data. Go to the data. You can look at studies. About what constitutes sexual assault, how people differ when they look at consent. You can look at men versus women. You can look at different age groups. And, I think that's where, if someone really cares about it, that's where you can make your point. And then maybe have some solutions. Don't just look to rile people up.
Yeah, the only thing, and we're going to go to the hands next, is I suggested, what about the scientific method? Because her original tweet says she's confused or she'll never understand or something like that. You have a PhD, which I'm going full circle here, is the scientific method. There's literally, there's no PhD achiever out there that shouldn't know, what I learned in 4th grade, which is there's an experiment that you can craft to kind of figure out and address your confusion. So that just
bingo
happen. So
rather than just attacking a bunch of men.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Julia alluded to that. Like a lot of older women may be more on the side against this woman than others. They may actually have more in common with men than younger men do. With the women she's talking about, like you said, science. There are statistics, there are studies, there are surveys that can be done about people's opinion and whether they vary by liberal or conservative views.
Awesome, guys. So let's start off with SD. He was the first one to hit his hand as far as I saw. Go ahead, SD.
Hey, thanks for having me again. So I was just going to read what this she's an assistant professor of political science at Syracuse University. Holds a PhD from the University of Chicago, where she studied American politics. In particular, her research focuses on Black politics, new media, social media movements, and gender and sexuality. When I was scrolling down her Twitter feed, I did too see that after you had tweeted to her this morning. I didn't get the block button after a few comments that I had made to her. I think she's really looking just to rile people up in the not so educated way for the definition of what we're discussing, rape and all that. Because as Julia stated, there's multiple factors that goes into unwanted contact or all this other thing. And I'm sure a ton of other people know that. I'm not for the rape type people. I don't agree with it, but it just seems what she's trying to do is rile people up with an uneducated tweet and have her tweets that I'm looking at focus on how other people are mad at her for what she's tweeting. And a lot of her tweets are against white males to be in particular, which I find is rather odd if you're a doctor of social movements and gender and sexuality.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So again, just to reiterate, so there can be a difference between men and women. So like men might not find it as big a deal to perhaps just touch somebody on their shoulder, female or male, whereas women may find that to actually be much more offensive, or, you know, that's definitely something non-consensual. Men might say, well, that's no big deal. But yeah, that's something that she should point out rather than just state it.
And from like a human resources standpoint as a manager, what they always kind of said on these light situations like this is that once you were put on notice in any way that it was unwanted behavior, that the very next occurrence was, you know, like a firing or an actionable offense, you know, for those things where you could potentially just be trying to comfort somebody, or, you know, the studies show that touching can help with communication and, you know, can be a good thing. But the second you're on notice that it's unwanted, it's a hard, thick line.
Right, because it also doesn't mean that it was intentional. You have to be able to recognize that it was actually something that was intended, you know, as non-consensual in order for it to, you know, be something like sexual
there's some things that are always inappropriate without clear permission, and then there's some things that are only really inappropriate if you're told that it's unwanted behavior, like somebody trying to comfort you and tapping you on the shoulder saying, I'm so sorry about your loss.
So we want to jump to Seraph?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a long week. Spent the whole week in Twitmo. Somebody didn't like what I had to say. Imagine that shit. I want to open by saying that I think Martha's Vineyard has shown us the proper way to do things by using the military to deport these illegals that are pouring across the border. And I also want to add that I'm looking at this Dr. Jen Jackson, who is the topic of conversation. I could read a couple of these things if y'all would like. It says, all right. It says right underneath here, it says, here's some help. A handshake necessitates consent. You put your hand out and wait for someone to make contact. That's consent, dearies. Oh, fuck me. You place your hand on the small of a woman's back, leaving it there because you find her attractive, non-consensual. Oh, Lord. The fact that so many white-appearing men, here's with the racial shit, believe that unwanted and non-consensual touch of a woman's body is synonymous with heterosexual culture and not rape culture should tell you enough about why our collective societies are where they are on gender and sexuality. Imagine getting on Twitter and saying that you flirt with women by touching their bodies without their consent, and you just wait to see if they stiffen or get uncomfortable as a sign not to do it. Imagine. Holy fuck. I mean, you know, there's a difference. When you say some shit like that, okay, now bumping into somebody or tapping someone's shoulder to get their attention, you know, that's different. You're not assaulting a person. You're trying to get their attention. I mean, there's a thin line between putting your hands on somebody when they don't want you to, which it then goes into assault or battery, depending on where you live. And then there's just getting someone's attention, or as someone else had mentioned several times, trying to comfort that person or console them in some way if they're upset. You know, it's just ridiculous the way it's gotten. And, you know, you can't even, you know, bump into somebody with oh, you sexually assaulted me. But I was just reading that, and, you know, I'm looking at her thread. If there's anything at all you would like else to hear, I will gladly either screenshot it and DM it to either Crypto or you, Mark, to put it in the nest, or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll do, Seraph. It just reminds me, listen, guys, you know, if Mark Norton touches the small of a woman's back or her knee or her elbow or her face, okay, you know, one or two things are going to happen. One, it's going to work out for everybody that evening, or two, I'm going to be slapped or pushed away or become, you know, I would commit some kind of offense. Okay, whether it's no less than social, maybe criminal. Okay, but the point is, how am I batting 1,000? How am I doing so well? I'm not a raper. is because, I've been raised in humanity. I've been raised in the real world. I've been raised in U.S. culture. Okay. Just like many of you, I'm not the outlier rapist. And we may or may not have an outlier rapist in the room. I would suggest probably not. Okay. But the concept that they're out there, that they're that prevalent, that just the contact in and of itself. Go ahead. Try to date a woman and ask her if you can touch the small of her back. Go ahead. Let me know how that works out. Don't waste your time. I know it's not going to work out. That's not how nature works. There's a big difference between a raper and a well positioned natural man. So, but Shraf, go ahead and keep going if you had anything else you wanted to say.
Sounds like something a rapist would say. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was just joking.
No, it's okay.
That's pretty funny.
That's completely okay. I'll put myself out there. Not a rapist. Don't support rapists. Don't like the rape culture.
Based.
Yeah,
no one should. That's absolutely awful.
Real rapey.
Yeah.
It's sad that it has to be put so on notice nowadays.
Yeah.
When it's at its lowest rates in forever, you will get caught. Like, even if you use a condom, you will most probably be caught because we care so much about that in our culture right now.
Yeah,
But
if you don't say you're
places,
anti-rape, you're
whatever.
pro-rape.
Bruh,
Thanks, guys.
Drink
Julia.
water, everybody.
To bring in a little perspective of age to this conversation, I think I'm quite a bit older than most of you here.
Help us out.
If you go back to the 70s, rape was not treated as a terribly serious offense. There were a lot of 3-year, 4-year, 5-year sentences given out for rape in the 70s. It wasn't until, I don't know really what triggered it, but a public awareness of sexual assault became a much bigger issue into the 80s and taking us where we are today.
So you're saying in the past it was handled, but with never exceeding 5 years, and then not until the 80s movement that it became basically nearly, and in some places, a capital crime, right?
Exactly. It became a major felony offense. Prior to, it wasn't treated much differently than just aggravated assault. There was no special character statutes for sexual assault. There was rape, but there weren't subcategories of sexual assault. And rape was simply treated as another category of aggravated assault and sentenced accordingly.
Yeah, thanks, Ship. It's like I appreciate that, and I would ask you just your reaction off this tweet between her and myself, and what do you think of that?
Well, honestly, Mark, I went looking for it. I couldn't find it, so I'm just kind of listening to the dialogue without really having seen the exchange. I don't know what set it all off.
Fair enough. Check out the nest, Shipley, and then if you want, raise your hand, and I'd love to get your reaction. If not, that's okay too. All right, Julia, you wanna get back to the hands? All right, we'll do it. Okay, James, and then Daryl, you're on deck. Go ahead, James.
Hey there. I'm also a elderly guy who remembers the 70s. Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. I am not a touchy person, and every once in a while I'm single, so I date a woman that likes to be tactile. Should I call the police? Is that where we're going here? This is so crazy. Like, rape is rape. This is, if you're a guy and you're, it took me a long time to, kind of loosen up and hug my friends and, I don't. I've been working on it my whole life. I need to, and I need to get out there. I need to be that, and I don't want to be that, kind of guy, right? It's kind of on the, on the spectrum, kind of behavior. So I'm working, and I'm working on it. I want to be, more friendly. I want people to know that I'm open. I am. That's kind of the way I am, and I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But holy crow! I mean, you can't touch somebody. You can't put your arm around. You can't comfort people. You can't. I mean, come on. Where's this going? This is just, and it's just more of the same. I think they're just trying to confuse everybody. Right? This is not normal behavior. Of course, it's normal behavior. This is what people do, right? And this is how mammals react. This is just craziness. Anyway, I just thought I'd chime in. I appreciate it. Appreciate the room. Having fun listening. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James. And I guess unless anyone else wants to raise their hand, Daryl will be the last on this, and then we will move on to Martha's Vineyard and the immigration and human trafficking and the military rounding up these poor souls that are seeking asylum. So let's so before we go there, Daryl, go ahead, help us out here. What's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, going well. Go ahead, Daryl. Yep, loud and clear.
Cool. I've got. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name's Daryl. I'm a patriot and a follower of most of the headliner people in this group. I don't really participate much in open forums, and this is the first time that I've ever really done anything with a live space or anything like that.
Well, welcome. Doing great. Go ahead, Daryl.
I've listened to several of them. This is the first time I've actually spoken to one. I think, speaking to Shipwreck's point about how you didn't see this kind of crap in the past, I think a lot of it has to do more with culture than anything. I mean, when you think back or you look back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, even into the early 70s, sex wasn't something that was discussed. Sex wasn't something that was talked about. You didn't have the epidemic of porn. You didn't have you had like the high school kids all hooking up and stuff like that. There was pressure. There was all that kind of stuff, but you didn't see the prevalence of it that you see these days. And right around in the 70s with the sexual revolution, you saw a lot more of it take the forefront. And that's kind of where the whole rape epidemic kicked off. I mean, prior to that point, sex was for one purpose, and that was making babies. And, there were a lot of people that had a lot of fun doing it. That's always been a thing. I mean, it is enjoyable, but it wasn't something that people built an identity around. And now it is entirely something that people build an identity around. And because of that, you have this culture of sexuality that has kind of permeated everything. And because humans take things to the extreme in almost every circumstance, you get people taking it to the extreme where rape has become a thing that is almost commonplace anymore. And I don't think that's an indictment of men. I don't think that's an indictment of individuals unless they are the ones that are actually committing the crime. I do think, however, it is a severe indictment of society and what we have allowed to become mainstream.
Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate it, man. And I'm glad you've been a listener for a while and speak anytime you want. All right.
All right.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. So sorry, guys. Normally, Crypto handles the speakers, so I'm a little slow here. So we're gonna do the two more hands that we have, and then I'll bring some other people up, bring some people down, but then we will move on to Martha's Vineyard. So let me just go back to USS Liberty Captain. Go ahead. Captain, are you there?
Hello, sorry.
That's all right.
No, but I love Alex Stein. I saw that as the title, so that's why I originally entered. I just wanted to say he's a really funny dude, even if he is a little, close to the content. But I don't know. I'm gonna go to bed now. Good night.
All right, see ya. Let's see. Cape Brenton Highlander. Go ahead.
Yep. Thanks for the mic. Thanks for the space, I guess, and the mic. And yeah, the whole thing to me is so absolutely absurd. I mean, how we've become so detached from just normal human decency. Um, to change the idea of what is rape and what is not rape. I mean, if anyone doesn't, I have 4 daughters, so I mean, if you're not clear on the idea of rape, I'll straighten you out pretty fucking quick. But it's the line has become so blurred, and at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it. Sorry, I'm Christian. Sexual intercourse is for the purpose of reproduction. So if you want to use that at your leisure or for your pleasure, I suppose you're allowed to do that. But I mean, you do that at your peril, right? I mean, that's why we have an argument about abortion. That's why we have an argument about child support. That's why we have all of these arguments. But I mean, it's not. It shouldn't define you. And that's where sexuality has sort of taken over. I remember. When I'm Canadian, so when Pierre Elliott Trudeau came out with the pronouncement that gay relationships are going to be legal, and I'm not saying that it was wrong, but he came out with the pronouncement that there is no place for the government in the bedroom. I agree with that 100,000%. You can't disagree with it. There is absolutely no place for the government in the bedrooms of citizens. But the problem is the government has worked away into the bedrooms, and all of the legislation we've seen over the last 20 years has involved the bedrooms and sexual habits of
Cape.
Yep.
Hey, sorry, but when you say government in the bedrooms, well, what about aggravated sexual assault? AKA rape. Should the government not outlaw rape? Should they not make statutes on rape? Should they not confine
well, of
people
course,
for rape?
that's always been there. That's always been there. My problem is with distorting the idea of that. Okay, so we've all seen the stats on college rapes, which have turned out to be absolutely untrue. Yes, 1,000%. I think sexual activity is my entire point is that was the reason why you're born with a penis and a woman is born with a vagina is for the purpose of reproduction. So where we start to stray is, and we all do that. I mean, I'm no prude, but it's not for your own gratification. It's for one reason, and that should not ever define you. So society has come to the point where you're absolutely defined by your sexual proclivity. And I mean, for those of us in the room that I was married for almost 25 years, if my identity was based on my sexual activity, I mean, I would have no identity for various periods over 25 years. Yeah, it should be a non sequitur. It shouldn't be part of the conversation. But I mean, to try and conflate that with sexual assault and rape, to me, is just like such an absurd overreach and such an absurd, veering off of the normal conversation. Of course, everyone. There's not a single person that believes that forcing yourself upon someone is a reasonable idea. There's not a single person in the Western world that believes that's normal, or, as a matter of fact, the vast majority of us think that there should be harsher penalties for that. Where we get into the weeds is, where we start trying to redefine the definition of sexual assault, which is, placing your hand on the shoulder and, hey, can I buy you a drink? And that's now all of a sudden, and that's an assault. And
Right,
that,
right. I agree with you. I agree with you, Cape. There's an element of humanity that this person seems to want to bypass and make it statutory, and it's just unrealistic. It's also not procreative, right? No pun intended. But I appreciate it, Cape. So stick around if you will. Parson, if I think Parson, we've had you before. You're a pretty smart guy. If I got the right Parson, go ahead. And then we're gonna move on to the immigrant.
Just profile picture alone tells you he's reasonably smart.
I think this is the Parson that was pretty squared away. I could be wrong. Go ahead, Parson.
Hey, I love you all. It just goes to show eventually you will remember me. Um, anyway, that being said, I've been off the market for 35 going on 36 years come my birthday.
Did you ever touch women in the small of their back?
Well, here's the thing. I was a very handsome young man and I had a reputation, so it was more the other way around. I remember being I went to a different high school and I couldn't walk down the senior hall aisle because the senior girls there at this particular high school couldn't keep themselves from pinching me on the ass. I do. I am more interested in the next subject, because I've been off the market, but I have a daughter and I have two granddaughters, and damn right, I have a clear understanding of what rape means and what I think, and I could talk all night on my personal life experience because it's so long, but I had a friend who claimed to have been raped, and me and a bunch of guys went over and beat the living shit out of the guy, and we later found out, oh, he didn't rape her. She just put out, and when he wasn't interested in anymore, she told us all that he got raped. So we kind of got suckered into that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. My wife, later in life, my wife actually got to meet this young man. He sold us a waterbed. I kid you not. That was an experience, right?
Oh my God.
And anyway, I do want to give Carpe a little Carpe. I am a Bible thumper, buddy. 35 years, same woman. Sex is important. Sex is important to a relationship. It's important for your wife. It's important for you. It isn't just there for childbirthing. If you follow me into our biblical scripture, we'll definitely cover that. If anybody has an issue with that, understanding that. I'm glad to see you clapping. All right, bro. I just wanted to be clear about that. If you want to be long and happily married, you make sure she's happy. And there's nothing more spiritual and there's nothing more bonding than that time in the bedroom or in the couch or in the kitchen or on the dining room or in the car or wherever, but I just want to say that, and I really want to talk on the next subject.
All right, stick around, Parson. So we'll move it along. Thanks. And if you guys, we're moving on right now, and if you do still have a comment on the last topic, just make it brief and you can do it. So we're talking the immigrants, the illegal aliens, the migrants, the asylum seekers, whatever you want to call them. Okay. I really don't know. And I don't know if one definition fits any one person. Nonetheless, we've seen Governor Greg Abbott, Texas. We've seen him filling the buses up. I think there was maybe Arizona governor. I'm not sure. Julia probably knows. She's on this stuff. But, there's been a couple governors with the buses. And then you have Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida. Okay. And he put two of them on some high-wing jets. He filled about 50 of them up, sent them to Martha's Vineyard, and they lasted not 2 full days before their emergency management office up there was fully activated, fully involved. And they put them on some buses, sent them to Joint Base Cape Cod, which, if you're unfamiliar with it, is just a small joint base. And they were, don't worry, put up into some, quote, and I quote the press release from the emergency management officer of the state or whatever, a dormitory style. What I can tell you is that short-term military lodging, okay? And I hope these poor people have cell phone chargers that are more than 6 feet long, because there's very few and outlets in these government structures. They're very far away. I know that from experience. So, I want to hear everyone's thoughts, but I would just say that, I'm wondering, I don't know this. We spoke with Brick Suit the other night on the podcast, and he said, I asked him when are we going to see a kind of a 180 with the administration and securing the border. He doesn't think we're going to see that. I don't know. He probably knows better than me, but I would just imagine that once this thing hits home for some of these locations, like Martha's Vineyard, perhaps we will. So, Julia or Crypto, do you guys have anything before we hit the people on this? Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, there's been a couple of updates on this. So I don't know how many of you have heard that attorneys representing they're Venezuelans. They're apparently or allegedly asylum seekers. I kind of roll my eyes at that because that's what they're all claiming to be. And we're talking about at this point, something like 2 million people. So the 50, and we're talking about the 50 specifically that were flown to Martha's Vineyard by Governor DeSantis. Their lawyers are formally requesting that authorities open a criminal investigation. So their lawyers are claiming that they're victims and they were induced to board airplanes and cross state lines under false pretenses. So they're being represented by Lawyers for Civil Rights. I'm going to call that LCR. That's a Boston-based group. So there are 30 of the 48 people that were flown. This was from Texas to Martha's Vineyard on Wednesday, and that was organized by DeSantis. So while they were flown from Texas, DeSantis used state funds, allegedly, Florida state funds. He has $12 million, I think, in the coffers for this, and he says he'll continue to use those funds till they're dried up to help protect Florida, he said, from what would be, it is an emergent crisis, because he said he assumes that eventually a lot of these illegal aliens will end up in Florida. So he's drawing fire for that. That's kind of another new angle. But their lawyers, the LCR says, individuals working in concert with state officials, including the Florida governor, made numerous false promises, including of work opportunities, schooling for their children, and immigration assistance in order to induce them to travel. So according to LCR, they're providing pro bono legal assistance to the asylum seekers. That's according to The Guardian. They're referring to them as asylum seekers. The Venezuelans were duped in what was essentially a coordinated political stunt targeting vulnerable people based on the race and country of origin. Included women and children as young as 2 years old. So, of course, they're trying to appeal to everybody's feelings who's reading this article. They wrote to U.S. Attorney General Rachel Rollins and the Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, requesting they open criminal investigations, as we strongly believe that criminal laws were broken by the perpetrators of this stunt. They also said this cowardly political stunt has placed our clients in peril. Upon arrival, numerous individuals had to be rushed to the hospital in need of medical care. Some now have immigration hearings as early as Monday, thousands of miles away. They also claim it was only when the plane was midair that illegal aliens were told they were headed to Martha's Vineyard and not Boston. So I thought it was interesting that, if they were midair and then they were told, are you going to Martha's Vineyard, not Boston, why were they then suddenly, in peril because they needed to be rushed to a hospital? Why were they getting on a plane that was supposed to be headed to Boston? Shouldn't they be seeking medical care at that point?
Did you notice too, Julia, how carefully things are worded here? Because I remember there was a left-wing blue checker and like a news media that was like, these people were taken against their will. And then somebody's interviewing one of them and they say, oh no, we volunteered to go. We wanted to go. And like quickly withdrew their tweet. And so here they're basically saying now that, okay, yeah, maybe they wanted to go. Maybe they said yes, but they were told things were going to be better. It's like so they keep moving the goalposts from they didn't want to go to, well, they did want to go, but they were misled, to maybe they weren't misled. Maybe they did want to go, but they're very, very sick.
Yeah, it's interesting point, Baby Yoda, is those words very specific. Julia, anything else?
I was just going to add that DeSantis allegedly paid an aviation company $615,000 to fly them there. So he's coming under fire for that. And Mark, to your point about Arizona being involved, they absolutely are. They're sending, I think they've sent something like 50 busloads of migrants to Washington, D.C., illegal aliens. And they've been doing that since May. It's a program. It's almost 2,000 illegal aliens have been sent there. And they said they're all boarding the buses voluntarily and have an intended destination of the East Coast. And so people are complaining, liberals are complaining that like, oh, it's costing the state millions of dollars to do this. But I mean, the illegal aliens have signed up for that. They're doing so voluntarily. And, you know, I think that's pretty clever of the governor's office there. So that's three Republican governors that are involved in this. You've got Arizona, Texas, and now Florida.
Well, and one last question, Julia. Didn't the government themselves provide transportation from the border to states like Pennsylvania of illegals a while back? Why aren't they facing criminal and civil charges for doing that? Did they maybe tell people things were going to be great in Pennsylvania and maybe they went there and got carjacked right away?
Yeah, in many cases it was in the dead of night. And then you actually had, when it was investigated, when people started taking photos, they switched airports. And they didn't even respond. And I'm talking about in my case in Pennsylvania, I know about this. Governor Wolf was questioned by lawmakers here. Governor Wolf and our AG Josh Shapiro, who is running for governor now, they were both questioned by lawmakers, sent official letters. As far as I know, they did not respond, but it required both of them to sign off on that. And then they switched the airport. They were switching between two smaller airports when one of the airports was getting, it had an influx of reporters there and people taking photos, not just reporters, but lawmakers were showing up to take their own videos and photos saying, look, we have plane loads coming in. This has been happening now for the past week. And then they switched to another airport.
I remember too, Julia, that those, I almost said rotators, but they don't rotate. They come back empty, right? The aircraft. So I would say, remember that was all happening in the dead of night. Okay. They were midnight, red eye, 3 a.m. flights.
They didn't need IDs to get on the plane like we do. They just needed their paper that they claimed asylum, and even though they had no ID because they threw it away before the border, they could fly on a plane.
And you mentioned asylum, Baby Yoda. I had a little bit of a tweet battle with some people, and the word asylum. There's actually a definition. There's standards, especially when you're talking about like international and domestic, United States asylum. I'm seeking asylum. It doesn't mean I want a better life. Like there's standards there, right? So let's Julia, do you want to manage the hands, or you want my help, or I want to get the hands went up quick on this one.
Yeah. Sure. We can bounce back and forth. If anyone has anything they want to weigh in, I'm talking about the hosts here, and Baby Yoda and Shipley.
I'll just toss one more thing in on asylum before you go to the hands. For people that don't know, and most of the people in this audience do, one of the reasons they claim asylum has nothing to do with asylum. If they're not from Mexico and they claim asylum and they've made it over the border, then there's a certain series of rights they have to stay here, until they have these hearings and various stuff. So it's basically in I think 90% of the cases, they're seen not to have any legitimate asylum claim, but just claiming it keeps them here for, a year plus.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they're already getting, Visa gift cards and cell phones and this and that. Now they've got representation for free. Isn't it great? Let's go to some hands, though. Go ahead, Ben.
I want to claim asylum from the stupidity and the hypocrisy that we have to deal with every day. I mean, when you look at, and generally I try and be more understanding, because it is, yes, there's people and children that are, involved in this. But at this point, I think that we need to expand our horizons. I think that DeSantis, I'm surprised Abbott is doing anything about this, but I think they need to be more creative after we've seen the reaction at, the people in Martha's Vineyard that are so open and welcome to unity of people that look like everything, of all colors. I think that they need to send these people to every single liberal city in the country, and then maybe some of these people will start waking up, since the media and everything else has already been compromised. It's like you start to see these people coming out. Oh yeah, whoa, wait, actually, maybe maybe they do need to do this legally, and yeah, in essence, it's just, if you come across the border and you just say, oh, asylum, you go wherever you want to go. Is it political? Whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. At this point, it is literally laughable. It is a joke where we're sending money, what we're putting money in these bills that they're funding. I think just, playing hot potato with immigrants, whatever. Okay, it's cool. Yeah. Show us on the dolls where crypto was touched. It doesn't matter. It's just, I think they need to expand their horizons, send them other places. But it literally is at this point. It's a joke, and it's like the only thing that's actually waking a lot of these people up. The elite, so they say, and the liberals that are so warming and welcoming, and they live in sanctuary states and cities, and then they get a taste of their own medicine. They're like, "Holy shit! Nope, not here. Not gonna have it." Right? And looking at the people on the border, I can't even. I'm glad I'm not down there, but at this point we are all border states. But it's like this is the only thing that's waking people up. And Julia, to your point, I kind of do almost think that as we get closer to the elections, they might possibly maybe do something about it. I don't know, but the reports we're seeing are absolutely. I mean, they're horrible. Monica Matthews, I think she put out some article with somebody talking about these people having to deal with these young girls that are literally, they're raped on the way, and like semen samples last 24 or 36 hours, and there's like a couple dozen in one 9 year. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting and tragic, but it's the policies of. I don't even want to say it's the former vice president and his handlers that are facilitating this. So it's absolutely horrible. But what's even more horrible is after we take shit back, how we clean this mess up. That's what's really, really, really alarming. And granted, we have to get there. But yeah, send them everywhere, every liberal city. That's what I feel. If I don't even know if Greyhound is still traded or not, but if it is, you need to invest in it because they're gonna be burning up the roads.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Julia, where were we? Who's up next?
We've got Bill next.
Okay.
Hi. Yeah. Well, I put in the nest there. Martha's Vineyard. If the Dems want to invite good people for dinner, migrants, it's fair enough that the party be held in the home of the Dems. Republicans advocate world homestead rights to help the poor and oppressed achieve legal title to their own free and independent family farms. So I got a meme there. It just looks at this. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. We have great farmers here in Alberta, and we could help the poor and oppressed of the world achieve successful, free, and independent family farms. My gosh. World homestead rights. So regarding DeSantis and Abbott, I'm sure they're smart enough that if they invite somebody to accept free transportation to a very rich and wealthy Democratic jurisdiction, all these people have signed consent forms. And so I'm sure, that's well looked after. And, oh, my gosh, the Biden administration will try to do anything, but they won't get away with everything. What did I do? I put something else in the nest. I just wanted to mention the previous topic, a new and better culture. So here, the globalist woke agenda is to teach youth that Canada is racist, misogynist, and sexually oppressive. We need to teach that the goodness of Western civilization includes saving sex for marriage is best, because this is truly for the happiness of young families with children throughout the land. Okay, thanks, folks. I'll pass on the mic. Thanks. A great space.
All right, thank you so much. Let's jump to Daryl.
So I just wanted to point out the foolishness of how much the media tries to point out that all of these Republican governors are sending these migrants elsewhere when we have documented evidence that Biden and the DOJ was shipping immigrants from place to place. In fact, there's that video that floated around for a little while that everyone seems to have memory hold about the private contractors or federal contractors in Westchester, New York, where that was caught on police body camera, where they said, "Yeah, don't tell anyone about this, because if the American people knew what was going on, it would be the end of it." And he's like, "Well, why?" He said, "Because the country has betrayed its people, or the government has betrayed the people." On top of that, you have Governor DeSantis in Florida shipping all of these immigrants, migrants, asylum seekers, whatever you want to refer to them as, shipping them out to other places like New York City, when quietly under the radar, it got maybe 2 mentions that I saw. New York City just started shipping people to Florida because New York City says that they can't handle them. But you get all the reports and everybody raising all kinds of hell about people being sent to New York City or Martha's Vineyard or DC, but yet no one says a word whenever those places start doing it back to Florida.
So go ahead, Daryl.
Go ahead.
Wrap it up. I'm sorry. I was going to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just, to quote Jack Posobiec and James Lindsay, at this point, it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. They control the establishment. They control the rules. The rules are for us, the plebs, to follow, not for the elites. The elites do whatever they want, and we are to sit back and take it. And that's the way they view it. So calling out the hypocrisy at this point doesn't work, because like I said, it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy.
Thank you. So just a quick thought is, and I'm glad Brick is up, because we asked him in the podcast. And if you guys don't follow us, okay, if you're not in the newsletter, a quick pitch here: click on Crypto's face and subscribe. Why? Because we do, we're transitioning, not completely, but we're doing a lot of work on the podcast with the newsletter. Also, some interesting things are going to unveil with the newsletter, which is kind of our thoughts. Very short, very brief. We're talking like tweet level, but maybe some things that we can't say on Twitter. You might want to jump on that. So click on Crypto's face and subscribe. It's just quicker than I told you. Also, fun fact. Okay, Jack Pozo with with the My Pillow. We have one too now. So it's code 2FEDS. So you do that. That's one way you can help us out while we help you guys out. So 2FEDS. But I would say, when I think about this, and I asked Brick this just the other day, and I'm sure he'll opine, but I want to hear your guys. Is this the necessary way to secure the border? AKA, send it to the Democrats, send it to the Democrats in the positions of power, send it to, the districts or wherever you have to do to kind of get the border secured, make them feel the sting of this porous border. Is that necessary? Are we going to see the 180? Are we going to see the change, maybe even before the election? That's kind of my table question. Before we go back to the hands, Crypto, I'm glad to have you back. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the answer is no. These are just political games being played right now. It's not going to change the status quo. They're going to continue.
I hope you guys are wrong. You're probably not, but I wish you are. Not for me, but for results.
Well, you're going to wish I was wrong on this next part too. So the answer is no. Flying people up there. I'm not sure who said it on Twitter, but it's not me. It was someone else on Twitter. They said, well, if Kamala Harris doesn't want to go to the southern border, we'll bring the border to her, right? That was them dropping off people at her house. So the answer is no. This is not going to change anything. This is political games. Illinois is doing it. They're all doing it, right? Lots of places are doing it. What I will say is what may, I don't know. It may change it. Of course, the first thing is going to be they're going to, maybe in Chicago we won't notice if the crime rate goes up, because every weekend, there's like 15 people dead. So if there's now 17 dead, I don't think we'll probably notice a difference. But what I fear is going to happen, and it's not by any fault of the governors, which, by the way, I love the fact that they're using state resources and state leadership and their own state constitution and the Bill of Rights to do this. What I think is going to happen at some point is if you bust and fly enough of these people around, someone, and I use the air quotes here, important. What do I mean by important? Well, Martha's Vineyard, right? They're more important than you guys because they have money, and they were so happy and crying to see that the illegals were leaving. So I honestly believe that they believe they were doing such a gratuitous act by having them sent somewhere. But I think if you go deep enough into their heart or soul, they know exactly what they were doing. They're millionaires and billionaires, and they were getting these brown people, black people out of Martha's Vineyard because we don't want to lose money on property value. We don't want to lose money by having these brown people around. So white liberals are the worst people. I said it before, I'll say it again. White liberals are the worst. What I fear may be a game changer is when one of these illegals, and they are illegal migrants, they're illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them, they're not here properly. So they are illegal. They're humans, they're also illegal as it pertains to the United States. What I fear is going to happen is that you're going to have a mass atrocity where someone, quote unquote, important, if I got killed tomorrow by an illegal, well, you guys don't, most of you don't even know my name. So, or my point being is someone, quote unquote, important, some white liberal is going to get hurt or whatever by these people flooding our country. And they may say, well, the plane was, by the way, Biden's doing it all the time at night, right? But then Texas and Florida does it once or twice, and all of a sudden, the shit hits the fan. And by the way, it was 50 people. I mean, I've been to bigger events in my local counties with fucking 50 people. They actually declared a national fucking emergency and activated the guard, right? Could you imagine if we sent a full 747 up there, like just totally packed, or sent like 5 of them up there? Point being is, I don't know if this will do it, but if someone, quote unquote, important, someone with money, white liberal, they don't care about conservatives, but if one of those Martha Vineyards people got raped, got hurt, I think first they would point obviously to Abbott and things like that, but then maybe it's something to let everyone know. Listen, a lot of these people are fine, decent people. Some of these people are not. They have to be vetted, and they're not right now. It's just wide open. They're not being vetted. And, Americans used to be locked down. Someone sent me a tweet that on 60 Minutes, apparently Biden said COVID is over. So, thanks, Biden. It was over a while ago, but apparently, I think, as someone said, he's kind of late to the game on this. But my point being is, no, right now I think it's political theater, and I don't know. Something bigger is going to have to happen to secure the border. And, I can't say it enough, but I'll say it every weekend. If we can just stop one payment to Ukraine and spend that on the southern border, we could finish it up and we could secure it, right? We need 87,000 more border agents. We don't need 87,000 more IRS agents targeting the middle class. We're already overtaxed. I could go with the cliche saying of taxation is theft and get a bunch of likes on a tweet. The point being is, I understand taxation. The government has to run. At the same time, I work, I get money, I get taxed on it. I then spend my money, I get taxed on it. I then send money to do something, I get taxed on it. I then get money from my second job where I teach, I get taxed on it. I take that money and I go buy, I don't know, a car. I get massively taxed on that. I take that car in a few years and I sell it. I get taxed on that. They have an endless revenue from us. Endless. That's my fucking rant.
No, I would just back you up, Crypto. You've said that for...
Don't fucking back me up.
Huh?
I go forward, Chief. I don't back up.
No, I'm backing you up.
Listen.
Hey, I'm backing you up. I'm saying
listen. No. Listen
for a year.
No. Listen here, Juvenile. All right. I don't back that ass up. All right. I go forward.
Last time I backed you up.
You ain't backing me up. Listen. Maybe women might like that. But men do not like to be backed up, so I'll be grabbing my hips.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. What I'm getting at is I agree with you. You've said it before, which was, it's going to take the quote unquote important person. I remember you and I discussed that, and we thought it would happen in Manhattan, but we didn't expect Martha's Vineyard getting the 2 jets worth of people. But yeah, I'll back you up. Deal with it, right? So let's see.
Going into YouTube, I'm going to find Juvenile's "Back That Ass Up" song and put it up top for everyone. Right next to Elvis. So,
all right.
To Elvis, so you can see how things have changed from the 60s and 70s to the 2000s. You can see a side-by-side deterioration of our culture.
Yeah, we going back to it, Julia?
I guess we are. Let's. I think Johnny was up, and then we've got Seraph on deck.
Help us out, Johnny.
I'll be quick. I'm pretty confident that when the illegals got on the plane in Florida, they were confident they were leaving the state of Florida. They were taking a long plane ride to Martha's Vineyard. When they got to Martha's Vineyard, I really don't think they all expected to be shooed off on the bus 48 hours later. But of course, the white rich liberals brought out the food for a day, brought in the lawyers, turned around and sit there and said to them how they were manipulated. Oh, I'm so sorry. We can't accommodate you. We wish you could stay here forever, but you don't understand. We're a small little island. We can't all this mumbo jumbo. And then as crypto kind of phrase, they shooed away, they cleaned up the trash relatively quickly because that's what they do. Now, the funny thing is, I want to say that 50. Well, first of all, how come? Where are the interviews with these people? I understand they probably speak Spanish. What, you can't find a reporter to have an interview with these people? Where are these interviews? They can't talk to the press. The press doesn't have access to them. They're restricted. I would like to hear their story directly, not necessarily from their lawyer mouthpiece. But anyway, my understanding, 50 people got on the plane in Florida, and 49 got on the bus to go to Cape Cod. So did one guy stay behind and say, you know what, I think I'm staying. I got my hoodie. I'm going to camp on the beach for a while. Got some hot dogs I can barbecue up. I mean, I want to know if there's one guy that stayed. That's the guy that I want to talk to. That's the guy I want to hear from.
Actually, some of them are speaking up, Johnny. I saw an article in USA Today. They're saying they simply feel misled. They talked about a grueling journey. One of them, Carlos Munez, said he journeyed from Venezuela to give his 4-year-old son things he didn't have, like a meaningful education, freedom to express his opinions without fear of persecution, and a job where he can earn enough money to afford food. He was studying electrical engineering before Venezuela's economy collapse halted his studies, and said he wants to go back to school and dreams that his son will also go to college someday. I want peace, he said, tranquility. And he was at least one. They also talked to Everlides de la Hoz, a mother and grandmother. She recalled a grueling journey to the U.S., during which she saw people in her group of travelers die from heart attacks, drowning, and a snake bite. After finding themselves in Martha's Vineyard, many expressed feelings of uncertainty as they wondered what may come for them next. Others, promised jobs and housing, felt lied to. When we got on the plane, they told us they would give us jobs, a place to live, everything, De La Hoz said through a translator. The whole group is pretty upset, but they did take us to a nice place. Another person, 36-year-old, said, I simply feel misled because they told a lie and it has come to nothing. So they are speaking through translators to the press. I just kind of am wondering myself how them having lawyers now, this isn't also a political stunt. Kind of the same thing of which they're accusing DeSantis.
Well, I think that's an interesting point too. Is they went to Chicago, they went to D.C., they went to New York City, and the white limousine lawyers didn't show up there. But they go to Martha's Vineyard, and it's from DeSantis, changes the game.
Yeah. So let's go to some more hands.
And just real quick, I think the motive behind that we have to make clear is that we're not a welfare state, right? I mean, people are coming here for a reason. And as Julia just said, which I had no idea, it's what we all expected. They were told they were going to have jobs. They were told they were going to have housing. And Martha Vineyard's super rich white liberals, you can deal with anything for 24 to 48 hours. You can deal with almost anything. You can smile and you can give them, the red carpet treatment, but there's an end date. The United States is not a welfare state. And the fact that we have an open border, we are giving people money, health care, sometimes jobs, maybe. I don't know.
Visa gift cards, cell phones. How do they feel misled?
Right. All that.
And remember, they might have been misled by the Democrats when they were told you can't stay in Martha's Vineyards, right? They say, hey, you're in Martha Vineyards, but if you get on this bus and go someplace else, it'll be even better.
Who told them they were getting?
So the Democrats probably lied to them and misled them to get them to go to a place that's worse than Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you have someone else in the White House who says, listen, we're not a welfare state, we're going to take care of our own before we take care of illegals, that will probably, in and of itself, that theory of how we're going to operate is going to slow down the border without even putting a border up in the first place, because people are going to realize that maybe this venture, which is dangerous, I'm sure, and Mark can talk about the snake bite and probably sucking it out of the guy, but my point being is that if you say, listen, you can come here, and if you get in, we're going to send you right back around, and nothing here is going to be given to you. If we change our welfare state, which is what Biden and everyone is currently doing, it will stop some people. Then the border on top of that will stop more, and watch will go down to 80%. But we have to stop being a welfare state.
And one last point, that guy that was interviewed, the reason he's going to lose his asylum hearing is all they have to do is play his audio that he came here for a better life for his son and a job.
So does that mentality bother other people? That's what I want to know. It's like hearing those comments. It's kind of like, well, we were told things and we felt, lied to. It's like, well, what did you expect? I mean, what do you think we owe you? Look at the state that many of us are living in now. Americans are struggling. You're coming into our country. You're doing it illegally. You don't really seem to care because you're saying things are worse back home. Okay, that's fine. I understand that, you think things are so much better here, but what's this mentality that you feel owed all of this stuff just because you think we have such better lives here?
With Americans, 66% of Americans say they're one paycheck away from disaster, essentially.
Yeah, no, and so many people aren't prepared for retirement. I mean, come on.
So I'll just make this one brief. In case you guys don't know about this firsthand, the kind of environment, the housing, and I put that in quotations, okay, the lodging is probably a better term, that these guys, that these people, that these migrants, that these individuals we're talking about are staying in. I'm talking cinder blocks, twin beds, flat pillows, maybe, they have to share an outlet that, I'm not even joking, is 12 feet away from their bed.
Did they have
Sorry?
Did they have My Pillows?
No, but if they want, they can get some really good ones up to 66% off by using the code 2FEDS.
Right.
So
they could a lot of money.
And we know they have Visa gift cards because of Julia.
So if they have the Visa gift cards and they type in 2FEDS, they're going to be doing better at Joint Base Cape Cod. So, if you guys really want to help out, that's the way to do it. But what I'm getting at on a serious note is the problem, the situation, the living conditions isn't gone. It's just out of Martha's Vineyard. So that is not permanent housing. It's not very comfortable. I'll be honest. It's not comfortable for 20-year-old young men who stay in these, when they do what's called a TDY, temporary duty assignment. I've done them. A lot of guys have done them. You deal with it. Why? Because you're getting paid. You might even be getting paid a little extra called per diem. Okay. But these people, with the unknown and the expectations of a better life and what was maybe promised, maybe suggested, they're in for a letdown. they're already let down right now. I can tell you, being night 2 or 3. So just think about that. We're not done with it. You stick them on Cape Cod, Joint Base. This situation's not over. So I'll move on. Back to you, Julia. But just think about that, guys. And if you've ever spent any time on a temporary military assignment, okay, it's a little better than a hooch, a little better than those wooden sheds that you live in. True, but it's not it's not the Hyatt or the Hilton or even the Red Roof Inn.
It's also Cape Cod. It's not like they're going to big metropolis.
Yeah, they got about another month of good weather. But go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Sarah. Then Parson, you're on deck.
Thanks, Julie. I just wanted to say I enjoyed the photos of your trip. It was seems like a very nice trip you had there. Very much enjoyed them. I wanted to say, as far as the illegals go, it was just not too long ago in California, there was a man just beheaded a woman in the middle of the street. If this shit continues, I mean, I'm reading things about Venezuela emptying their prisons and sending them up here. We're going to end up seeing that shit in the streets everywhere. And, Joe Biden was moving these illegals around in the middle of the night on planes on U.S. tax dollars dime, and it wasn't human trafficking. But if Governor Abbott or Governor DeSantis does it, oh, it's human trafficking. You got to arrest that man. You got to arrest that man. It's like, wait a minute. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. And I also read an article about these illegals saying that they are talking. You're right, Julia. They are talking to the press. They said they were scared. They're terrified. It's like, well, wait a minute. How the hell are you marching, walking all these thousands of miles, and your clothes are clean? You've got cell phones. You're well fed. You're not emaciated in any way. I'm just trying to figure out how that is. I'm a little bit confused because I've gone on some hikes before, and regardless of what shape I'm in, I'm pretty damn freaking disheveled by the end of that hike. And lastly, I wanted to say I shared a tweet in the on Crypto's tweet about this space where the mayor of Philadelphia was doing a little dance. Ian Miles Chong dropped it earlier about being a sanctuary city, and I think that's where the next 15 or 20 busloads needs to head up there. Let them revel in their little sanctuary city, and let them put their money where their mouth is.
I
But
disagree
we all know
with
that.
Philly, good luck, Philly. They seem to be tapped. Am I right, SD?
Philly is a fucking shit show. They have enough problems even without illegals. And I've seen what they can get away with in this city. And nonetheless, murder is one of them.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right about that. All right, go ahead, Parson, and then a page of ink. You're on deck.
Well, I'm sitting here crossing off all the things off my list that everybody's already said. Hypocrisy, pawns, the lawsuit. Listen, I talked to people about this lawsuit stuff and, Martha Vineyard and what happened there. You get 3 responses. From intelligent, conservative people, we laugh. And I'll explain why in a second here. The other is outrage. And the outrage is coming from those that aren't necessarily in the know, probably independents, maybe lean or vote Democrat most often. Then you get the hypocrite laughter because they think they're going to win this. They think that they're going to turn this into a PR against Republicans in the upcoming election. I laugh, and you guys have laughed about this for the same reasons I do, because we know they're not going to win the popularity on this. We know that this is shining a light on the hypocrisy of the elite, and the people see it for what it is. So I'll move on from that. Quick thing here. Who's all seen the movie The Terminal that Tom Hanks was in? Anybody? Don't recall it? Great movie. You should watch it. Tom Hanks is a immigrant. Well, he's not an immigrant. He's a traveler from Desposia. And while he's in flight to the United States to go see Benny Golson, who he learned was doing a jazz show in the city of New York for 2 weeks. So he took his vacation. He was an engineer, and he's flying over to the United States and lands in JFK. And while he's in the air, the country gets overthrown by people the U.S. doesn't like. And he immediately, upon landing, loses his visa status. Now, they'll let him leave the airport if he applies for asylum, but he doesn't want asylum. He wants to go home when he goes. He just wants to go see Benny Golson and share memories because he's such an admirer. And it's a great movie. So it kind of talks to the hypocrisy of how one enters, right? If you try to enter the United States legally, you got to be vaxxed, right? Come flying in from some other country. You got to have all this other documentation. The hypocrisy is just loading up so high on the scales that everybody that's got a brain says, we're out of whack. And I think several of you just nailed it. I think Philly, I don't care how bad Philly is. I mean, look at Chicago now. I mean, everything is legal, maybe even including first-degree murder. Maybe if you do shoot somebody in the center of the street right in front of 20 witnesses plus 5 Chicago police officers, you're going to get off. But just about every other crime is now legal in the state of Illinois. I think that's going to destroy that state. I just don't. Again, more stupidity on top of stupidity. And the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on is, the truth of everything we're seeing here. I watched a video from a sheriff down in Texas on the border. 700 drownings so far this year. He never sees that number of dead drowning from people crossing the border. 700. The American people need to be made aware of what this policy isn't just going to do and is doing damage to our cities, but what it's doing to these people. This false hope, this false dream. And lastly, to address Venezuela, I seen a YouTube yesterday from one of these punks that he let out of prison that's on his way to this country. And he was very explicit on why he's coming here and what his intentions are. And it isn't nice. It isn't nice. If I search back through my timeline, I'll try to get it up in the nest. But basically, he says he's coming here to wage war on the people of the United States, to kill us. And many just like him. That's their whole purpose, is to come here and bring chaos with them. So I'll go find that and throw that up in the nest, and I'll land there for now.
So Parson, just real quick, what's the motive behind that? Because you're coming to a country that has the most guns per capita. There's a good chance you can, possibly pull it once or twice if you're in Chicago or California. At some point, someone here is going to smoke you, like that guy Mark in the McDonald's with the fucking axe who was fucking swinging at people. Yeah. No one had a gun that day, and he was.
Bruin will catch him eventually. But go ahead.
Yeah, he was released either the same night or next day with no bail. I'm not sure what state it is, but you guys can look it up. This fucking wacko who apparently broke up with his girlfriend, went to a McDonald's, then pulled out an axe after he was attacked by some people with fists. But then he went beyond just, protecting himself. He started swinging at people, charging people. My question is, though, Parson, why is this maniac from Venezuela coming here? What have we done to him? Is he being paid? Is he an operative? Or is he just coming here to do what he wants? I mean, he would probably have a better time going somewhere else, like Switzerland or Norway, and getting away with it. He comes here, someone's going to shoot him at some point.
He actually gives his motive. His motive is he blames the American people for what's happening in Venezuela, and that he is a devout communist. Huh. So he is coming as a terrorist, he feels he's coming here to get vengeance for his nation. So I'm going to find that, and I'll get it up in the nest.
Awesome. I'm sure that the FBI has him on the radar, so we know what that means. We'll miss him coming in, and then we'll see him after he shoots everyone.
Exactly. Well done. They might even give him some arms on his way through.
Yeah. It's like, hey, man, you don't have the updated Glock. You want a 43? Here you go.
I remember seeing that video. That was actually pretty shocking. Hope it isn't real, but something tells me it did look pretty legit. So if you can find that, I think a lot of people would be interested to see that. So moving along, we've got a page of ink, and then Bricksuit, you'll be on deck.
Hey guys, it's Paige. I guess I'm wondering where does the beginning of this, like where does this line start? Like who gets this going? And I think it was on Chad Prather's show. Jorge Ventura was on there. I think it was him that said it, that there's literal instructions painted on the walls along the way on how to get here, which ways to go, and instructions on what to say and do when they get here. So they're being very well taken care of. And the girl that got her head taken off in broad daylight in front of her neighbors, that was an ex-boyfriend. I'm sure he's illegal. They're both Hispanic, but she had a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old. That was in the same week that the Memphis kid went off and then shooting people live. And then the next day, his buddies went out and did the same thing. And the machete-wielding woman in New York, and then that beheading in California. And that was in 1 week. Just 1 week in American news.
Paige.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? So I've never really, I mean, I've seen things like it, but that guy who was on Facebook Live, who was going around places and they couldn't catch up with him, and then Facebook finally fucking took down his live feed, where he walks into like a general store or like a hardware store, shoots a guy and kills him, goes to the next place. Could you imagine the outrage if that was a white dude?
Oh my God.
Like, I haven't even heard about that. Like, that guy took it to a whole new level, live streaming murders.
Yeah.
And laughing and going to places. And he was on Facebook. I don't know if he hopped on any other platforms. I saw like a couple of videos and I was like, this guy's fucking deranged. And by the way, he wasn't killed. He was taken into custody.
Yeah.
But that would still be running 24/7 if that was a white kid.
Oh, absolutely. They'd still be talking about it. But what about his buddy? His buddy the next day in a carload of hoodies. He said he's gonna cap some white people. It's open season on white people. If you're white, sorry. I'm white.
And I'm pretty sure he didn't care if you were a liberal or not that day.
No, not at all. Sorry, I am trying to talk. I'm hyperventilating so bad from y'all's earlier conversation. I've been trying to hang in there because I thought y'all were going to have Alex Stein on, and I love your spaces. But the first subject is somebody that just has gone through some stuff. I'm waiting for the Klonopin to kick in.
Paige, let's go back to that real quick then. Am I wrong? Did I come off a little too coarse? What's the deal?
Well, okay. So I have PTSD. I have social anxiety and panic. Sexual assault survivor.
Sorry to hear that.
And so I'm very jumpy. And I didn't used to be. Like, nothing used to rock me. I mean, I was stupid fearless. But now, if somebody touches me, I literally jump out of my skin and scream. And the thing is, it was somebody that I knew, and it was extremely violent. You know, when it's somebody you don't know, and I mean, somebody you know, and you're not expecting, and it becomes very violent, very fast, and you can't get away. It's so just a lot of stuff, and it's just breathe. Yeah, it just touching somebody you don't know is, in my opinion, I wouldn't do it just because of everything I just expressed. Calling that rape and sexual assault and all that's extreme. That's extreme. And it's the culture we live in now. I mean, it's the woke world we live in now globally, and the CRT outlook on everything. And white people, it's like, okay, we got to pay reparations now. And if that means you dying, well, look what happened to us. So it just seems that way. I'm watching on Fox now, some reporter, and watching them swim across the river. By the way, nobody's ever mentioned what the guard down there that jumped in to save somebody and he drowned, and that was never on the news.
Yeah, that
or
was
anything,
horrible. That's
ever.
horrible. Yeah.
And this is daily. I mean, those guys, I feel bad for them. And I mean, I'm an hour out of Houston, and I'm terrified to drive to Houston. I'm terrified to drive on I-45. I will not do it. I will get on toll roads and drive all the way around town to avoid I-45, just because I don't want to fly in bullet. I've had friends come to work and go, "Yeah, I had to duck because there was a shootout on the freeway and my car was in the middle of it." It's just, I just people that do the suicide by cop, I think that they should just, I mean, don't do that to cops. Just go walk through a gang neighborhood. Boom, you're done. I mean,
oh my God, thanks.
I hate to say that, but I mean, as somebody with major disorder,
well, not only does suicide by cop, really affect those cops' lives, but the taxpayers as well, because they're getting, at least in the Northeast, we call it 66 2/3.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I come from an all law enforcement family. It makes me insane. So that's all. I mean,
Paige, I appreciate the sincerity and the personal information you just filled us in on. So I hope I didn't come off offensive in any way.
No.
Okay, just checking,
No.
because
I love you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hanging in here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page then. Yeah, we're not pro rape over here. We're quite anti rape.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
Thanks, Paige.
Bye.
All right, I believe Brick Suit, you're up next.
A lot to talk about. I really don't know which one to really discuss, but I think I'll just go back to the Martha's Vineyard one because that's what's up on top. Just want to clear up a couple things here. Both of those flights did stop in Florida, but they originated in San Antonio, Texas. So this isn't necessarily a case of, this is one of the criticisms of DeSantis is that the people that were flown to Martha's Vineyard didn't necessarily originate in Florida. Also, there's the question of him using state budgetary funds to pay for this. Well, actually, it's a line item that was in state budget last year. I think it's in their transportation department. It's $12 million for a project of resettlement of illegal aliens. And it is funded solely by interest on federal funds that Florida receives. So none of these dollars that are being spent are actually Florida taxpayer dollars. They are all, that this $12 million fund completely is comprised of interest on the money that Florida receives from the federal government for various programs. So that being said, I don't think this is really going to change anything. And my thing is that it's going to change some public perception, but is it really going to change policy? I doubt it, because the Democrats will just deflect. The Democrats will just say, this is, everything will be taken care of if the Republicans weren't stonewalling us. Everything will be taken care of. The Republicans would just give in to this immigration reform bill that President Biden has proposed. And of course, when you look at that bill, it has things like expanded pathways to citizenship. It has chain migration. It has reduction of elimination of Title 42. It has increase in legal immigration and H-1B visas. It has all sorts of things in there that are really just anathema to getting immigration under control. It's basically just legalizing immigration being out of control. And that's what Biden's so-called immigration bill does. So when you hear White House press secretary saying that we want to get stuff done, the Republicans are blocking us, and if they pass this immigration bill, reform bill, everything will be hunky-dory. Well, yeah, it's an immigration reform bill. Technically, that's correct, but it is reforming immigration in the wrong direction. So, what crypto's saying is that this is all going to really blow up once one of these people commits a crime of note. That's a distinct possibility. But remember, too, that the people that are coming across and are presenting themselves to Border Patrol are by and large not really the most, let's say, egregious criminals. They're not necessarily the worst of the worst. Those people are sneaking by, trying to remain undetected because they know that they don't want to be apprehended, captured, questioned, etc. They want to get into America undetected. So, I think that the percentage of potential criminals in the pool of people who come across and say, I'm here for asylum, which is probably not what they're here for. They're probably here as economic migrants. I just think that the amount of criminals contained within that group is a lower percentage. That being said, you can never know. So there's no way to know for certain, and there's no way to be sure. But I just think it is lower, and I think being that we've had over 2 million illegal aliens cross our border this in the last 2 years, and per year for the last 2 years. Certainly, it's not the case that the majority of them are criminals. Absolutely not. They are people living in other countries who are coming to America because they know this is the time. The door is open. This is their go moment. If they can get in, they got a great chance of sticking under the current administration. And if things really blow their way, they could be citizens in 5 years. So they're shooting their shot. I can't blame them. They're going to come here. Maybe some of them become parents. Then they'll have, a son or a daughter who is a legal citizen of America by virtue of being born within the United States. And that's something that later on could get them admission into the United States because they could come back on a chain migration visa or something like that. So, it's a really complicated, really, really complicated problem. But the influx of illegal aliens will not stop until, by and large, the programs that are motivating them to come are ended. And that's really what needs to happen. And it's not going to happen under the Democrats. Absolutely not.
Brick, question on that. Tell me where I'm wrong here, which I probably am. And but I'm gonna do it right. So I'm probably wrong. Crypto and you have said it. We're not going to see a 180. I'm just wondering, why wouldn't they want to, quote, secure the border, reduce humanitarian emergencies by 1,000%, save American cities and resources by 600%? If they have the ability to manage this crisis, which they do, and they have chose not to do, why wouldn't we expect them to suddenly fix the problem and show that they are bipartisan and awesome and fully capable of handling national emergencies? Why am I wrong?
Well, in the case of Washington, D.C., and the case of Chicago, and the case of New York City, three metropolitan areas that you would say probably should have adequate services, they have all thrown up their hands in surrender, saying that they are not able to handle the influx of illegal aliens that are being bussed into their location, which is a patently absurd type of stance to take when you consider a city like Chicago. Okay, 4 buses got sent. Let's say that's 200 people. Well, without the buses happening, those 200 people still get to Chicago some way or another. They only have to go from Texas to Chicago. They're going to find a way. So it's not like those individuals aren't going to get to the cities anyways. It's just the manner in which they're arriving all at once that creates this type of drama. Those cities are already saying they can't handle it. Chicago can't handle it. New York City can't handle it. DC can't handle it. So what they're going to do is blame the Republicans for escalating this, make the Republicans into the demon for engaging in, quote, human trafficking by giving somebody a bus ticket, from a bus ticket or a plane ticket from Texas or Florida to some northern city, when in fact, we're already guilty sort of as Americans of human trafficking in that we fund the UN and the UN takes the dollars that we give it. And the UN gives grants to non-governmental agencies. And then those organizations, those NGOs, they take that money, go into Mexico, give it to people to buy what's basically like a transit visa that gives them 90 days in Mexico to do whatever they need to do, give them debit cards, give them guidance, give them coaching on how to get across the border. We are literally in part funding the invasion of our own country via our contribution to the UN.
Yeah, understandable. But I guess the more.
But the reason that, going back to your question, Mark, I'm sorry I didn't answer because I got off on a tangent there.
Thank you.
Rare for me, I know.
I'm just wondering why they're not going to shut the faucet off now that
because
they
that would be them admitting,
now they can
that
say,
would be
hey,
them
look,
admitting
we
defeat.
fixed it.
That would be them admitting that they were wrong. That would be them admitting that they had
but
the
that would
wrong
only be
decision.
us saying that. Right?
Mark, it's politics, dude. They're not going to do that. They have gone for years on this. They're just going to stop it now because of some stats you throw out?
No, I think it's advantageous to say before the election, look, we solved this horrible problem.
No, because Mark, first off, they can't solve it. Second off, this is what they're running on.
I think it can be solved. 87,000 IRS agents. You can repurpose them. You got the wall, like you said, one payment from Ukraine. You can have a physical barrier. I
it's
think
just that the left doesn't consider that a solution. You're right; it would be an objective solution.
The best we can hope for, Mark, is that, I don't see the official party stance of the Democrats changing, but absolutely, if you continue this, you can cleave off independents who lean Democrat and some classical liberal Democrats who are not yet leftists, who can see the impact that this type of influx is having in their community and understand that it's a stress that basically, a sickness that the United States in the last couple of years has invited upon itself. So if you're in a Midwestern city in, say, Pennsylvania or Ohio or Illinois, and you're a smaller town, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of social strain, social services strain because you're taking care of illegal aliens, and jobs are disappearing for the traditional residents. People there who may have been Democrats may switch over a little bit, but the Democrat Party, absolutely not. They're not going to change their stance.
Thanks, Brick. Julia, just at some point when we get to Mike, our resident pilot, I just have a special, kind of specific question for him. But back to you, Julia.
Sure. Let's go to Parson.
I'll be real quick. So that video has been deleted. That count was suspended that it was on. Took me a while to find it. There was two other points I'd like to make on this. In regards to Bricksuit, I agree with you 100%. And Mark, you got to understand, these people aren't interested in this country becoming better, because no matter how much they degrade the middle class and the infrastructure of this country, they're the elite. They're going to be above it all. So you got to keep your focus on that. Has got to be the understanding the American electorate and the voters need to understand that when you vote for these people, they're actually working against your interest. And to give you an example of them working to vote against our interest, think of all the money they send to Ukraine. Here's a nation whose civil war broke out because they banned a language that was spoken by over 35% of the population, banned it from being taught, in which their leader was the only language he knew to speak. And then they banned the political parties from those regions and the media from those regions that were of ethnic Russians that spoke Russian and, voted to, maintain the status quo. And so here we are, we're funding a government that does everything that this government and the Democratic Party says they're against. So the hypocrisy is so rich within our system, it's mind-boggling. And with that, I am going to be. You can put me down to listener. I'm going to listen for the rest of the night because you got some great speakers here. So I'd just be disrupting the room at this point. Oh, lastly, the Dow closed on Friday, if you all didn't notice, $156 less than the day Joe Biden took office. And with that, I'll end.
All right, thanks, Parson. Go ahead, Daryl.
So I have a few points that I wanted to bring out. First of all, Crypto's rant that he went on earlier, where he was talking about it would take somebody doing something to one of the rich liberal elites that live in those areas. I genuinely don't think that that's the case, because we're already seeing that in places like California, where home invasions are up. Something like 40% of the home invasions and burglaries that are committed in California in the rich neighborhoods are committed by undocumented or illegal immigrants. And you don't see it because they don't report on it, because it's not news. It doesn't further the narrative. So even if one of them were to be killed in one of those burglaries or break-ins, I don't see it having an effect. It's just another sacrifice to the cause. The cause being disrupting our country to the point that our country collapses, and the liberal elite or ruling class of both parties, because at this point, I'm firmly starting to believe that there are several politicians on the right that would greatly benefit from all of this happening as well. Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham being two of them. And I can speak on Mitch McConnell because as a member or as a Kentuckian, he is my representative, and I have every intention of primarying in 26. The second point that I wanted to speak on was in regards to the comment that was made. I don't remember who it was that made it, but the comment that was made about how if it were a white person that did the shooting in Memphis, the media would be all over it. Well, if you'll remember, and this got memory hold, if you'll remember, there was a white person that live streamed it. The Buffalo shooting, the guy streamed it on Twitch, live streamed on Twitch. He was white. He went in, he killed a bunch of people. His politics didn't fit the narrative, so that got memory hold. Then the third thing that I wanted to bring up was in regards to Paige and the bravery that she spoke about coming forward with her story and her trauma. And I wanted to point out something that is very, very good on her part and what sets her apart as being a survivor of this and still being able to participate in these discussions. While she did get triggered by some of the stuff that was saying, the part that makes her distinct and the part that makes her above what the common person who participates in this is she knows what her triggers are, and she even went as far without actually saying it, but implied it, that she understands that her triggers are her responsibility. And she said that essentially to Mark. She said, she told Mark, she's like, hey, you were talking about it. It was something that I was triggered by, and I understand that, but it was something that needed to be said, and she appreciated him saying it. And I just wanted to point out her bravery on that and applaud her for having the understanding and the mindset there that everybody in this chat room, everybody in life has their triggers, but at the end of the day, those triggers are the responsibility of the person who has them, not of the people around them that have to tiptoe around them. And that is a fundamental difference between what the left believes and what the right believes in today's society.
Well said, Daryl. Thank you. Let's go to Storm with El Pistolero on deck.
Yeah, I've been listening and in and out of the space, of course. Crypto Mark, great space. And I think Daryl hits the nail on the head with the triggers and walking on eggshells. The responsibility relies on the person that's triggered. and see what's unfortunate. There's some distinctions here. There's a lot of followers in the space, and when you're on the same page, you can agree to disagree. We can debate. We can talk. We can keep it respectful. We can have a dyad where we can have a dialogue of back and forth of ideas. The whole idea of everything is to be open minded. The moment you're closed minded, the moment that you're shut down, you're not open to ideas. There's a lot of leverage strengths. There's a lot of things that Johnny does better than I do, or Mike being a former F4 pilot, right? And when we come together, you create synergies. And so part of this chess match that we're playing, with the left or the elites or all the above, is that you got to expose their next two or three moves. And what Governor DeSantis and Abbott have done is they've said, hey, this is the game that they're playing that no one wants to talk about. And, if you go back to scripture, if you're a fundamental believer, what does scripture say about doing unto the least of those? There is a Venezuelan crisis, and it's unfortunate. And I'm not going to speculate one way or the other whether they're, seeking asylum is true or not. That's not for me to decide. But the mere fact that they called in the National Guard, I mean, it shows you these people have no clue of national security, and or if there was a real crisis in their zip code, they wouldn't know how to handle it. And for me, it exposes a lot. And I'll just land my plane there. I appreciate being able to speak in this space, and I always enjoy this space, and definitely share it with others, because the more we're able to bring together and get united, this is all a distraction. The central bank and the finances, and I think a lot of people have been raising the finances, especially with Parson. It's all a distraction. As long as we're distracted talking about all these subjects that is not going to be solved, I agree with a lot of that. They're just robbing us left and right.
I'd say it's less about exposing their next two or three moves and more about exposing their hypocrisy, because they're definitely not planning to send illegal aliens to blue cities. They're trying to send them to areas that are, purple or even red, to turn them further blue, or blue in the first place. But thanks, Storm. All right, let's go to El Pistolero, then Catherine. You're on deck.
Hey guys, how's it going? My apologies. For some reason, I got kicked out, but I'm back. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things in regards to, the reasoning as to why they're coming here. I'm not sure if you guys remember when the border crisis we had a couple years ago with the southern border of California, where there was, massive amounts of South Americans skipping Mexico and coming straight to the border. Well, if you remember, Mexico offered these people asylum and offered them, citizenship in exchange for labor, and they said no. And that just shows, shows their plans. Their plans are to come here and utilize social services. You know what I mean? And I'm this is coming from a first generation Mexican American, by the way. You know what I mean? I have family who live in Mexico and have, migrated over here and stuff like that. And it gave a bad look to the Latino community, right? So in my opinion, the fact that they got, sent.
I think we just lost El Pistola, did we, Julia?
Yeah, he cut out for me as well.
He made a fair point, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he dropped to listener.
Yeah, and we do find that a lot of the, immigrants, especially legal immigrants, they're some of the strongest supporters of protecting our borders and what we have here.
And I know that Trump was perhaps half joking in his rally the other night in Ohio, that said, what if all these people that the Democrats are letting cross the border, these millions of people, actually end up voting for Trump? He said, wouldn't that be funny? I just thought I'd mention that. Now I think we've got Catherine next. So go ahead, Catherine.
Thanks, Julia. For it's hard to get up in the beam. I had to DM Julia and say, what's going on?" Um, I don't have the most profound thoughts tonight. I have other nights, and I haven't been able to get up. But one of the things that I wasn't super political. I grew up in liberal Massachusetts, went to school and worked all my life in Manhattan, and yet I've always been conservative. Was raised conservative, and my experiences out after I left my childhood home never changed that. So I might be unique in that way. What's going on in the world has pissed me off beyond belief. I left Manhattan. I sold my mom's house after she passed away in 2020, and I drove myself down to Florida. And my intent was to leave entertainment behind. I worked for Letterman, et cetera. And I'm having a lot of trouble finding a house that's affordable. So that's kind of sidetracked me. But I'm so on fire, and I'm so angry, and I'm so patriotic, and I'm so in love with this country that I can't understand why we're always playing catch up. And I am not a super MAGA person at all. I am a populist. I can't understand why the people in charge always seem 10 steps ahead of us. And I think there was a guy named Drew saying we need to look at what they are doing 2 steps ahead of us. And Julia might have disagreed with that. But it's like we're talking about immigration, and yet they're probably already figuring out what they're going to do with the election. So how are we ever going to fix anything when we're constantly playing catch up? Does that mean we already have a one-party system in the government and that we just have no chance? And then why, Scott Pressler is an amazing person. He was able to do a lot with knocking on doors, but you can't knock on doors across every state in the
And just to clarify, Julia wasn't disagreeing with the part you said. She was basically saying that the Democrats try to relocate illegals where eventually if they get citizenship, they can turn a purple state blue.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So how do we deal with the fact that they're always 10 steps ahead of us? And how do we I've racked my brain, I don't want to go on too long, this is the last point, but I've racked my brain trying to figure out how to make people wake up. And even Tucker Carlson the other night, is the last thing I'm going to say, he made a very sarcastic comment about saying, well, I've been going on for 5 years about this on cable news network and it's not working. So even he's a little shocked that people just aren't doing more civil disobedience, et cetera. Why do you guys think none of this is happening?
Well, if J6 was civil disobedience, look what they tried to do. They tried to take people that would normally maybe get a couple months in jail if they, were a little bit too rowdy at a protest, and they're trying to put them away for 10 years. So, there's a full court assault on conservatives doing civil disobedience, where if BLM causes billions of dollars and burns down black businesses, they're left alone. But I agree, we need to stand together and do as much as we can.
Hey guys, hey Brick, if you want to go, jump in, bud. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'd just like to say one thing there is that, what Scott has done is incredibly impressive. But the truth is, we could be doing more of that. There could be more people doing basically the same type of outreach that Scott has been doing for the last several years. I've thought about it, and the problem in my situation is I just can't make the financials work. If I didn't have a mortgage, if I wasn't in a position where I had some ongoing bills, I could very well be doing that type of stuff. And, it's not, you underestimate the ability of yourself to be a force multiplier in a local environment. So I'm trying to do more things locally. Can I totally, blow up my schedule so I can go across the nation and do the type of things that Scott does? No. But can I be effective locally? I believe the answer is yes. And for all of us, that answer is yes. And collectively, we can approach, we can make a huge difference in what we're doing in terms of voter outreach, in terms of voter education, in terms of voter registration. We could be doing that. And instead, many people are just choosing to, watch Netflix or binge the latest season of, that I don't even know the name of the show, the one with Kevin Costner, the Western.
Rick,
You know, whatever.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Rick, are you saying if your mortgage was satisfied and any other heavy debts you have, you'd be hitting the trail like Scott Pressler?
Yes.
Well, I'll just leave that there. If we have any whales in the room, Scott,
Yeah, I would be full-time political advocate, doing the type of stuff that I do now naturally, and in addition, something like that. Yes, I would.
And you're a gentleman, so I take it at your word that you would. So
I want to jump in, and I want to add that I don't know that it's necessarily that they're 3 steps ahead on everything. It sometimes depends on the specific topic or the issue. It's that they take a different approach to things, and sometimes their approach is better, and they also do have the backing of the mainstream media, of all these institutions. I think it was Catherine mentioned elections, and when it comes to Republicans versus Democrats, the Republicans tend to focus a lot on campaigns and on campaigning in elections. And so while it may look like we're doing so well or we have a great ground game, what do the Democrats focus on when it comes to elections? They focus on the actual election itself. Election day, the procedures, the policies, who gets to actually handle those ballots.
And
Who is
mail-in votes,
actually,
don't forget that.
yeah. So what is mattering when it comes to elections. We're finding out that it's things like those mail-in ballots. We're finding out that it's who is actually handling them, who is counting them, who is, sitting in those rooms observing them, and who are those people. And so now we are a little bit behind in that, in realizing that, and that our strategy, maybe we need to shift to something like that. Maybe we need to have more, poll watchers and poll workers. So, you could call that, maybe that's us being behind, or maybe it's just our strategy is way too focused in the wrong place. But if we actually do shift it, we'd be in a much better position. So, yeah, I think it does depend on what topic we're looking at. But they do know what they're doing when it comes to a lot of things, but they also have a really strong backing of all of these institutions. And they've managed to infiltrate those over many decades. And we are at a great disadvantage there, I think.
Julia, can before I see we have our pitchers with their hands up, they want to throw. So before we do, can I just ask Mike a technical question?
Sure, go ahead. Okay,
Mike, listen, I don't know if you saw a DM, but I'm just looking for a little tactical information here. Okay, when I saw you're a resident pilot, so when I saw the Martha's Vineyard, the Florida flights, they're those high wing dual engine jets. There were 2 of them. A combination of 50 people. Sorry if you guys hear my cat. He's out of control. He just decided to freak out. He wants food. But Mike, what do you make of that jet from Florida? 2 of them, up to 50 people. Martha's Vineyard, that airfield. What takeaways can we have from that?
Mark, I think it was just probably economics. Those are regional jets. They're just small jets. Dornier 328s. They have 34 up to 34 passengers each. So theoretically, they could have brought in 68 migrants, but it's just economics. Like you all been saying, and you already know, it's just all politics. That's what I take from it.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I just, anytime we have an aviation question, I see you. I know I can get something. So much appreciated. Back to you, Julia.
Okay, hey Mark. Just let me say, I put something up. We're talking about immigration. I put something up and then asked if you guys want to look at it.
Sure. What are we looking at? We got a lot of things up there. Do you want to frame?
Well, it was a guy from Roy Beck. I guess he's a college professor or a motivational speaker or something like that. He gave that gumball speech or that gumball demonstration about, 10, 15 years ago. Probably many of you have seen it. He has like 10,000 gumballs that he brings up onto the stage. And he demonstrates using the gumballs how fruitless it is to try to immigrate people from these third world countries into a first world country like ours. And his basic bottom line is, if you want to really help these people coming across these borders, all these poor people, what you do is you have to go down there and help them. You go down to Mexico City, you go down to Nicaragua, or the capital of Panama or Venezuela or Afghanistan, and you help them in their home country. You don't bring them to your country because you're just shoveling shit against the tide. But he explains it in a lot more eloquent way. So it's kind of a famous demonstration, and it's been around the internet for a long time, and it still holds true today.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll take a look at it. Go ahead, Julia.
All right, I believe Johnny was up, then Baby Yoda. You there,
Well, if
Johnny?
Johnny's drinking, I'll go when he can go after me. I was just going to speak for Scott Pressler since
That's
he's just
exactly right. I was making a drink. Go ahead.
I was just going to speak for Scott Pressler. If I get it wrong, then Scott will just have to speak himself sometime. But I think everybody's always asking Scott what they can do to help. And he's basically, get out there with me and let's get people registered to vote. Let's get people motivated to vote. And instead, people are always like, some say yes and they do that. Others are like, well, I want to help in a different way, or I want to do this. And he's like, no, how about you help in the way that's extremely effective? Getting people out to vote, getting them registered to vote, getting them informed on the issues so they're motivated to vote. So we all say we want to help, but then the second somebody says like, oh, you want to help? Okay, show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. at this gas station, and they don't. So that's one part. The other part is the precinct strategy. You guys can Google that as necessary. Most people know what it is. But you've got these local political organizations, like GOP organizations, and a lot of times 50% of the seats are unfilled. And so when you're wondering why we get crappy, primary candidates or something, or the GOP puts forward establishment people and you'd rather have them put forward somebody that's electable but believes in kind of the America First policies, well, that's an opportunity to do that. Like poll watcher, sure, that's great, but that's kind of after the fact. It's not very effective. You might catch somebody doing something, but is it going to stop it? Did a lot of lawsuits work out? Not really. So that's great, but thinking like what you want to do or what's easy for you to do is the best thing to do to help us win, that's not necessarily true. So take it from experts like Scott, where you can do the most good at flipping a seat.
Easier said than done, my friend.
Get off your ass is easier said than done, yes.
Yeah, oh wow, you can hear me. Wow, cool. No, I'm dead serious.
Okay. We have a queue, so can you just raise your hand, Drew, and we can get to you? Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I have it in there. It's in there somewhere. Thank you.
Okay. Well, now that I know you want to
quiet.
speak, I'll put you after because Johnny had his hand up, then Michael Dean. So then you'll be after Michael Dean.
I'll
So
wait
go ahead,
for the
Johnny.
closing. No problem there.
It's good.
I'll wait for the closing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, Johnny. So we'll go to Michael Dean and then Drew.
Okay.
Go ahead, MD.
Hey, what's up, guys? I was just going to pop up if this isn't closing and kind of speak to what Catherine asked about the difference of catching up and I guess different political strategies. I mean, again, I always kind of say as a fairly new conservative, I think what I've seen, and I've heard many people suggest this, excuse me very much. And I don't know if I can explain it properly, but what I believe and what I've learned is that like conservatives are just different, psychologically and culturally and naturally for a few different reasons. One, many are very religious, spiritual Christians, etc. And they believe in a different, way of, living their life, and they believe in forgiveness and they believe in, doing unto your neighbor as they would do unto you, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you also look at, conservatives are very, I believe, very constitutional. They believe that the courts are going to settle things. They trust in the system that's been set up for a long time. And, and other aspects like that, where the left, and Jules, you touched on it, and you pretty much said most of it that I'm about to say, but
we also know that they culturally, have the media, they have the colleges, etc. From very young ages, through the education system, we're seeing that they're being taught to, I mean, in some ways, I guess good, but question the existing system. And then you further that by not just questioning it, but degrading it and talking about it, that it basically has to change. It has to be somewhat of a revolution. And then we've got all the other the funneling of money into these different organizations that help them organize. So that's a little bit of a rant, but I think there is a very big difference between how conservatives look at the politics of our country and cultural issues and social issues, compared to how the left does it. And I think we would all agree that in many ways it's been weaponized to the point where we're always on the defensive, which I think is part of their somewhat agenda. Sometimes we use the terms Marxism and well, it's not really so much socialism, but Marxism I think fits the best, because Marxism is much more of tactics of how to establish new political structures, if you will, where conservatives are very kind of dependent on the existing system, and the left wants a brand new system. So that was my little rant on kind of what Catherine was asking about.
Hey, Michael, real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Guys, Michael has been doing incredible work, basically being our talent scout, getting everybody coming on the podcast, some big names. Michael, who is coming up? Just a couple names, and what can we expect from the podcast? Go ahead.
Oh, you did put me on the spot. I believe we have Charles Love coming up, who I think could be really interesting. A gentleman that wrote a book, I believe, called it's something about race, something race, but I believe he pretty much kind of goes after the left's use of BLM and kind of what I just suggested, some of the Marxism aspects of the left, if I understand correctly. His book. So we have Charles Love coming up. One that I'm personally a little excited about is I'm going to mess it. Ed Lattimore. I believe it's Ed Lattimore, who was a heavyweight professional boxer. I don't remember if he won a championship or not, but my personal preference to his story is that he's a big recovery advocate, sobriety, and I think he'll have a really interesting story. Kind of maybe think of Mike Tyson, who became sober and now tries to help people in recovery. And he also, I will say that if you don't follow Ed, I mean, you don't obviously have to follow him, but over the last week or two since I've followed him, he has some amazing threads. Really well spoken, breaks down a lot of social and cultural issues.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. We appreciate what you do. You're doing great work. And guys, like same thing, podcast. Hit Crypto's face. There's a link there to subscribe to the newsletter. It's just that easy. So, Julia, we'll go back to you, and as we approach the end here. Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, we have a couple more people that still want to speak. I say we brought up Coleman Mooring and then Warrior, but I think Drew was coming up after Michael Dean. So we'll go to Drew, then Coleman, then Warrior. Go ahead, Drew. If you're there. Drew? Okay, we'll come back to you. So let's go to Coleman for now. Go ahead, Coleman.
Good evening, guys. Hello, I'm back again. Oh, shit. Sorry.
Up to you guys who wants to go.
I'll let you go ahead. And you go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Drew.
I might be a little scatterbrained on here because the conflict is over so many areas. of society that it is really hard to figure out where to strike out at. I think the main crux of it is the media and how the media is giving cover to everything that the leftists, or should I say the Marxists, are doing to this country. Um, and especially with the whole Martha's Vineyard thing and the border security. They're the Marxists or Democrats or whatever you want to call them. They call it's a fundamental problem with our immigration policy, but that's not it. I mean, no matter what our immigration policy is, border security is paramount, and they are neglecting it completely. I don't know. It's one of those. Maybe I'm just like the only one that gets it, but the media covers it, and nothing ever happens. Um, as far as what has been said before, um, and I didn't realize my mic was on when I was talking, but um, I'm a FedEx courier. I was doing pretty good, but right now my 401k is in the tank, and I'm living from paycheck to paycheck right now. It's very difficult to be as active when I'm so pressed down by the economy as it is. And that's part of the thing. I mean, if anybody's ever read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, I mean, this is just it's just yeah. You could, if you've read this and you're in the know, you could predict what's coming next, and how do we get the message out to everybody? I mean, I try on Facebook, I try on Twitter. I've been in jail in both. I'm on Truth Social, but everybody on Truth Social is beating the same drum. I mean, it's where do we go? How do we? I mean, I talk to my coworkers. I talk to the people I have influence with, but aside from that, I don't have the time or the energy or the money to be able to reach out further. We need a Soros on our side. I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, okay, I'll
Thanks,
go to
Drew.
conclusion. Thank you. I'm just a old conspiracy theorist from the mid '90s that went independent and finally went Republican because it's like, yeah, we need to save this party, because while the Republicans are not the answer, the Democrats are the problem. And I'll rest with that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, can I pose a question to Drew real quick? You said
Go
Johnny,
ahead.
Johnny,
Go
can
ahead.
I?
make it quick, please.
Yeah, real quick. You said you worked for FedEx. I think you said you were a courier. I think it was the CEO
Yes.
gave an interview with Bloomberg News recently, and he basically said that he's
Yeah.
seeing trends in the business that he's never seen before. Packages aren't flowing. Things are different. In other words, in his opinion, something is going on with the global economy that is we're right on the precipice of stuff. And I'm just curious. I don't know if you saw the interview, if you heard about it, but from your
Yes.
experience, have you experienced a massive difference? Is business less packages, less
Like efficiency,
deliveries?
Johnny.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me address this. Since COVID hit, we've been running at peak volumes to the point where the company has had to hire more employees than we have the equipment to be able to operate. I mean, does that make sense for you? We have drivers, but no trucks.
So business is good, you're saying, for you?
Yeah, yes, business is good. I mean, there's ups and downs day to day. However, I am seeing heavier volumes all through the year than we see during peak season, which is, Thanksgiving to Christmas. And I mean, I'm fearing this next peak season. I mean, FedEx has lost a lot of money because not being able to make their commit times. And that's FedEx's bread and butter. It's fast delivery. And the volume we have has said that, no, we can't make that because of the volume.
Thanks,
So,
Drew.
I mean, you say what, I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, it sounds to me get your Christmas gifts in October, not November. But appreciate Drew. Crypto, do you have anything before we go to the next step?
Yeah. So real quick, just on that comment. Interestingly enough, FedEx stock dropped 21% on Friday. So
that's massive. What is
massive?
That is horrific.
I believe by FedEx, it's the single biggest day drop. It went from Thursday at after hours or so. It was at 205, and then Friday it dropped to a low of 157 ish, and it closed. I'm not sure what after hours is doing, but it closed at 159 to 161. So FedEx dropped 21.40% Friday.
And that's about 4 times worse than the market as a whole. So it's not just because of the market drop.
That's horrific.
Right.
I don't currently have any FedEx, and I actually haven't been playing with a lot of the similar market stuff, but that's terrifying.
Yeah, I think the market had one of the worst days ever at 5 or 6% this past week. Yeah. But yeah, on Friday alone, it dropped 21.40% exactly on Friday. So interestingly enough, and then if you listen to Bannon at all, I don't know why he says it, so take it for what it's worth. He says that FedEx is the proxy indicator for how the market looks in general, blah, 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 blah. So we'll see how Monday goes. I haven't looked into after hours trading, but yeah, they dropped 21.40%, which, is massive. It's absolutely massive. So I'm trying to see here. FedEx Corporation's external concerns aren't large enough to conceal internal weaknesses. That's a story. FedEx reports new week. Wall Street expects earnings growth. So okay, nothing crazy on stories, but I did see that they dropped over 21% in one day, which I guess it's safer to invest in Bitcoin than it is in FedEx.
I mean, that's one logic. I mean, the other one is I'll grab a quick one and hope by Monday late afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, make a quick 6 to 8%. But
yeah, but that's what people thought when they were grabbing the knife on Peloton as it went down, right?
That's true. Fair.
So unless you're in the market and that's what you do, I leave my money to money guys.
Yeah, the Peloton craze is awesome.
Just keep investing in ammunition, people.
So yeah, I mean, 161.
And pay for cash so Visa can't report it to the government.
Correct.
Right. So I mean, and I guess depending on your credit cards, what they do, if you want to go to a gun store, you may want to start using cash. I mean, I'd like to buy on credit, but
I
now
get that cash back.
Well, right, but if you read the story last week, Visa, MasterCard, all of those places, all of those companies are coming together to create a special code. So if you go shopping at any, gun store that says like the Miami Shooting Center, if you go there and if you, purchase stuff or things like that, there's going to be a special code and, they're going to put that off to the side and it could be sent to the government, could be sent into a pot. I don't know where it's going.
Oh my God.
Mark, what's going to happen is the ATF is going to be knocking. The ATF is going to be knocking on your door saying, "I understand you bought 1,000 rounds of ATF. 1,000 rounds of 5.56. What's your purpose with this?
Man, I hope not. That's
Well,
that's the
don't
worst
have to
news of the
hope
night,
not.
guys. I mean, we're talking illegal aliens, and that just
Mark.
bummed me out.
Yeah, Mark, we're asking for your consent to search your cat.
Yeah, it's like, Mark, that cat's really too fat.
Yes, have you put ammunition, special armor-piercing rounds in a condom and fed it to your cat?
Oh my God! How
Actually,
offensive is that?
Instead of a cavity search, it's a cavity search.
Oh my God!
I mean,
this is horrible, you guys.
BY said it better than I did, because I was going to go with, have you put him in condoms and fed him up your cat's anus?
Guys, this is so wrong. My cat's he's a little gentleman, and I'm
No,
a bigger gentleman, and I do not insert
your cat,
things.
Your cat is massive, and he can hold a lot of 9mm.
Oh my God! Well, it's sad to hear that there will be electronic designations for ammunition purchases, and of course, my animal is treated with the utmost respect and is not penetrated, for God's sakes.
Well, so let me ask you, Mark, do you make him work extra for his food?
Hold on, he's talking now.
Yeah, we know why, because you're loading him up right now.
No, oh my God.
Mark, does your cat have to work extra for food? Question.
That sounded like he was saying torture.
He's pampered. 9 years old, doing well.
He's not answering my question. Mark, does your cat have to work extra for food?
No. We tried that. Which he does struggle with weight.
Hold on. So you stopped that after 2 days?
No, it's still sitting there. He hasn't even touched it. What we're talking about, guys, is Crypto recommended a special bowl with a whole bunch of obstacles in it to slow his consumption of food down. That way, his belly doesn't get as upset as quickly. Guy, I've never had a creature that has such high, dietary needs. He's already on prescription food. And listen, this guy is high maintenance. He has not touched the food in this special obstacle bowl. He hasn't touched it since I got it.
Him on the side.
Sorry?
That's because you're feeding him in the automatic food dispenser. You have to shut down food completely. Shut down the border, shut down the food.
Really put the pressure on?
Yeah. If you stop feeding him out of the automatic dispenser,
Mark,
he's
it
going
sounds like to
bowl.
me Crypto owes you $25.
Or
you hear that, Crypto?
Or a fat cat is a happy cat.
It was $25.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Bass State said to that? He says when goods don't cross the border, so will then troops come across the border. Just like you're going to see a cat army come to your house.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's a special guy, but yeah. All right. Crypto, is it time?
Yes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everyone that I can, guys. The speaker box is loaded. Anyone who wants to speak, guys, please toss your hand up for me right now. Otherwise, I'm going to rotate you out of the box because we have some people out. So, Blind, Joe, Warrior, SD, you guys are in. If you want to talk as we wrap up here, go ahead and put your hand up and you'll stay in. Otherwise, I'm going to rotate. So, Warrior, Blind, SD, go down to the bottom, hit the heart. And then to the far right side, you can put up your hand. So hit the heart, far right side, up goes the hand, and you see I just did it. So I need you guys to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to rotate out. Or you guys can just drop yourself down from the speaker box.
Or I'm just going to call on them, too.
No.
Any number of things.
No, you can't call on them because I'm going to move them down.
All right. Well, I guess I can't. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, here we go.
SD, are you in? Of course, Johnny, we know you're closing.
Yeah, I'm talking about SD, Blind, and Warrior.
Yeah. You guys, put your hands up, or you're going down to General Pop.
Oh no.
Yeah, SD, you want to go down? And he's going. Okay.
Hold on, I'm doing it. I'm moving. I'm sorry. Let me bring El Pistola back up.
See, Paige wants to come back. She's still fired up. Thank you, Paige. El Pistola, he didn't get to finish his monologue.
El Pistola's there. All right. All right. We have Drew. And then, all right. So we have Saraf, Joe, Coleman, Paige, El Pistola. Drew, toss your hand up for me.
Are the turkeys ready?
Yeah, I hope so. And Mark, just kind of lay out the lightning round for us. All right, there we go. Drew's off. All right, Mark, go.
Okay, guys, you know the deal with the lightning round. Just make it quick, make it brief. My daughter is near my computer watching TV, so if I have to go way over there and get the monkeys or the turkeys, you definitely exhausted your time.
Why would you tell the enemy you don't have artillery?
You know what? I'm gonna have to head over there. I'm gonna head
Mark,
over there.
Mark, hold on. I'm gonna open up a YouTube page because it's the time you get there, take it, learn how to use the computer. Hold on. I'm gonna type in angry
Let's
animals.
just hear your turkey and monkey there, Mark. That's all we got to hear. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
That's all. That works.
That's true, but it sounds like Crypto wants to handle it. But I think SD did want to talk before he got booted. So
I don't see a request.
Let me bring him back up. SD got to be a little faster with the hand. He probably can't even hear this right now because I just requested him. But nonetheless, we're going to go lightning round. So everyone with their hand raised, you're going to get called on. So order doesn't matter. Are we ready, Crypto, Julia?
Yep.
Okay. So just as I see him, Joe Jr. 33 and Saraf, you're on deck. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. So first off, my dogs even have armor-plated harnesses, and they're light. They're very light because when we go hunting, obviously they need to carry a little extra ammo. And I will just say that the cats are fucking vicious. Thank you for that food generation of that. They are a little plump. They're fucking spoiled, but animals are my love. And thank you guys for giving me a mic. It's all about my animals here. You're not taking my guns. I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep buying guns however I fucking want to buy them. And I'm going to be buying ammo. And I will load up. And if you want to knock on the fucking door, just see my profile. I'm not going fucking anywhere. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. SD, go ahead.
Crypto booted me right when I had a good thought. I completely forgot it, but I appreciate it.
Expected. Oh my God. Unbelievable, Crypto. Unbelievable. SD, put your hand back up. We'll come back to you. Saraf, go ahead.
All right. I'll just be brief and then I'll drop down the listener. What I wanted to say is I wanted to build on what the other gentleman had said about being active as far as, the upcoming voting season. Like I signed up to be a poll watcher. I have some leave, so I'm going to use that so I'm not losing any money out of my paycheck. I plan on in my neighborhood going, door knocking and, asking people who, are you registered to vote? If not, here's where you can go to vote. When I'm out, I talk to people like at a grocery store or whatever. It's like, hey, you registered to vote? How's things going? Start a conversation with them. And if you see they're kind of not happy, that's when you pounce. Say, hey, if you're registered to vote, you can change this. But I mean, that's my point. That's just, and that's pretty much what Scott Pressler says too when he puts his tweets out that, got to get active, especially at the local level. And the primaries are the most important elections we have to vote in, because if you end up with a shitty candidate, it's because they didn't get primary. That's okay.
I love it. Saraf, thank you. These little bit of role changes keep it fresh, so I like it. I laugh. I got it, Crypto. I got it. Let's go to Coleman. Go ahead.
Well, guys, it's quite a week we've had. We've had funeral procession. We've had Kamala Harris up there doing her version of Baghdad Bob. We've had, let's see, every other politician out there or media writer out there engaging in what we call critical denial theory, where the truth is a lie and the lie is the truth. So, I want to wish you all the very best of the week. Y'all have a good one. Martha's Vineyard's up there. They got a little placard out there saying how they stand with immigrants, stand with blacks, stand with everybody. And yet they were able to put a phone call in and get the U.S. military to clear out the vagrants. So y'all have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Coleman. And the monkeys didn't get you. So I'm just going to tell my pitchers, call to the bullpen, Johnny, Michael, Baby Yoda, and I'm also going to work SD, get in there. El Pistola, go ahead. El Pistola, clock's running. All right, Paige, save him.
All right. Check your DMs. I sent you an article you probably already know about that I just got my email on cryptocurrency, and your fat cat woke my fat cat up. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Sorry to hear. All right, so let's do this. We're gonna go, Michael.
Hold on. You gotta go back to SD. I cut him short.
Okay. SD, you're gonna start the pitcher rotation, and then we'll do the traditional Michael, Baby Yoda, then Johnny. Go ahead, SD.
Holy crow. I threw some up in the nest earlier tonight, the Safety Act. I don't know if that was ever brought up in a different space. If you guys didn't see, check it out. It's actually a pretty riveting law that's being passed in 2023 in Illinois, about 12 cashless bail murders included in that. And they're going to give you 48 hours to run after that. So feel free to look that up or introduce into the next space.
That's wild. You can be on the other side of the globe in 48 hours. That's wild, SD. Thanks.
The actual judge in that case actually did mention that. He said you can make it to Canada in the time that they'd be able to catch you. So it's actually
Canada.
Yeah.
I can make it in Canada in a couple hours. You literally could be anywhere. But thanks, SD. I got it, crypto. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah. So one, I'm hoping Jules maybe covers it on the immigration thing. I thought one of the better things was the NBC article about taking out the trash. So I don't know if Jules is going to cover that, but I think most of us saw that. On this lady, doctor, and the inappropriate touching, I almost will guarantee that she voted for Biden. So I'd love to search her tweets and see if she thinks his sniffing of hair and inappropriate touching is also inappropriate, if you will. And lastly, I just want to congratulate Crypto on his Gators beating the local junior college team. Good job, Crypto.
Okay. All right, Baby Yoda, help us out. Maybe you have a haiku or whatever other, serious literary devices you have. Go ahead.
No, I've just been doing some electrical wiring here, but it's all done. I'm just putting on the faceplate, so that's good. I've talked enough, so I'll just mention briefly Purnell's Iron Law of Bureaucracy. Jerry Purnell is a science fiction writer, and he basically came up with this law, and it's that in every organization, there's two types of people. One type is committed to the goal of the organization. So like the goal of the organization, like Department of Justice, the stated goal of the organization is, justice. But then the second type of people are committed to the power and aggrandizement of the organization itself. And you can imagine that the second type of people are always going to be eventually in charge, because while the first type are just going about the organization's mission, the other type are working behind the scenes to consolidate power and take over the organization, essentially make it corrupt and about their own aggrandizement. So if anybody wants to look that up, go ahead, but that's all I have.
Thanks, Baby Yoda. Johnny, take this game home.
The only thing I got to say really is the Kool-Aid is strong.
Monkeys, please, monkeys.
We already know it's coming. But the Kool-Aid is strong on the left side. I would love to know how somebody like a Michael goes from the liberal to conservative. I know I've asked this question 1,000 times. I just don't remember. But the Kool-Aid is so strong on the left side. The Kool-Aid is so strong on the left side that they really believe that the economy isn't in a recession. Because what did they do? They changed the definition. What did Biden do? He released the oil reserves like crazy. $1 million, or what was it, a million barrels a day? And that brought down the price. At some point, that's going to come to an end. At some point, that's going to run out. And what does everybody think is going to happen? It's going to go right back up again after the election. Bad things are coming for this country, but the left is very good at disguising it. And even worse, people buy into it. They drink the Kool-Aid. Last thing I just have to say is I would love to hear a little bit of Julia and her adventure across the Midwest, something that she didn't post. I'm sure there's a story.
You almost made it, Johnny. Oh, God. All right. Well, Julia can use her time as she wants to because she's the co-host. Julia, thanks tonight. You had a lot of answers tonight, so go ahead.
Yeah. Let me go right to, so I've got plenty of news to talk about. Just wanted to wrap up the illegal immigration discussion first. So I think it was Michael Dean that asked about the NBC News post. Yeah, that definitely made some waves. So they were criticized because they tweeted a quote from an immigration activist. They compared the illegal migrants that were sent by Ron DeSantis to Martha's Vineyard to trash. So the specific post said, Florida Governor DeSantis sending asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard is like me taking my trash out and just driving to different areas where I live and just throwing my trash there. And that was a founding member of a foundation which helps refugees. So I thought there were two good replies to this. There are plenty of replies, obviously, from conservatives, but one of them was Ohio Republican Senate candidate Bernie Moreno. He said, Jill Biden compares Hispanics to breakfast tacos, and the extremist Democrats who make money from the suffering of illegal immigrants compare migrants to trash. But my favorite response was from the Federalist editor-in-chief, Molly Hemingway. She said, after realizing this tweet made their political allies look horrific, NBC News deleted it. And of course, nobody on the left held NBC News, took them to task or anything like that. So Governor DeSantis is vowing to send more illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. He said in a press conference last week, now we see in New York and D.C., they used to beat their chests when Trump was in office, saying they're sanctuary jurisdictions. Then the minute Texas starts busing there, they get very bent out of shape about it. He also added, these are just the beginning efforts. We got an infrastructure in place now. There's going to be a lot more that's happening. So I was really thrilled to hear that. And of course, those remarks followed him sending those 50 illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard. And notably, Martha's Vineyard voted up to 84% for Biden in 2020. Now, another thing I wanted to point out was, is it just me or a lot of Democratic candidates unwilling to debate their Republican opponents this election season? Of course, I can't imagine why. Being completely sarcastic there, but people like Josh Shapiro refusing to debate Doug Mastriano in the Pennsylvania governor's race by not responding to him and his suggestions on debate terms. Katie Hobbs refusing to debate Carrie Lake, and that's, of course, in the Arizona governor race. It took forever to get Fetterman, this is the U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania, to agree to one debate with Oz. Personally, I think there needs to be more than one debate. Washington Post actually agrees with me on that. Most recently today in the New York governor's race, Lee Zeldin just tweeted this a couple hours ago. He said it's September 18th and Kathy Hochul still hasn't accepted any debates. She's a coward who says New Yorkers should be her apostles, calls herself the mother of New York's 62 counties, and demands political opponents get on a bus and move to Florida. Mail-in voting starts in 5 days. And I thought it was also interesting to point out that for some reason, Newsom, we're talking about Governor Newsom in California, wants to debate DeSantis on CNN. I thought that was pretty bizarre, but he tweeted, hey, Governor Ron DeSantis, clearly you're struggling, distracted, and busy playing politics with people's lives. Since you have only one overriding need, attention, let's take this up and debate. I'll bring my hair gel, you bring your hairspray, name the time before Election Day. And he tagged CNN. Make of that what you will. I thought that was very strange. And then the last major story I want to touch on, of course, quick background on this in case you missed it. Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, he had his phone seized by the FBI while he was at a Hardee's fast food location. He initially tried to hold on to his phone since he runs his entire business from it. He says he doesn't own a computer, but eventually he turned it over following the advice from his lawyer. He said the FBI agents he spoke to asked about Dominion voting systems, which he had previously criticized, as we well know, about the 2020 election being rigged. He was also questioned about his relationship with Mesa County, Colorado clerk Tina Peters. She was indicted on allegations of election tampering. So the latest update on this is that Lindell, in case all of you haven't heard, this is becoming a pretty big story. He's planning to sue the FBI after his phone was seized, saying this will set a precedent. So he went on Bannon's War Room podcast to say, we are suing the United States government and the FBI, and this isn't just to get the phone back. My First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights are broken. We're not going to put up with this. He told Newsweek he plans to file the lawsuit next week. He said that on podcast it'll be filed on Tuesday, and noted that following the seizure of his phone, some vendors on the website My Store canceled their agreements, quote, because of what the FBI did, end quote. He also said, we lost a huge chunk of business because of that. There were four products that got canceled, 4 different people because they're afraid of what the FBI did. And he said that he was informed by FBI agents that the seizure was, quote, not about January 6th, end quote. So before I jump to, I guess I could say it now. So Johnny asked about something that I didn't post about my trip. There's so many things I didn't post because I covered almost 3,500 miles in a rental car. That was a lot of fun. I'm sure Mark would love to hear some of those stories, being someone that rents out cars. But I actually met so many people that were in support of Trump, of conservatives. I wore my MAGA hat a lot of places just to see the kind of response I would get. I got so many smiles, so many thumbs up. I actually even had a conversation with a guy on my flight back where he said, he's like, oh, you see the stock market's crashing? And I was like, yep, I heard about it. And he was like, this wouldn't be happening if the right people were in place. And I was like, I said, I got my red hat with me right here. And he was like, yep. He's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he's like, but it's crazy though. He's like, a lot of young people don't know. He's like, I have people that work for me that he's like, I try to explain it to them. And he said, they don't understand that, if liberals tax, corporations and drive up taxes, he said, that's going to be passed on to them. And I completely agree. But I had all these conversations with so many different people, so many different places. And it was just, I think for me, it was those connections and kind of those moments that really made it. And it wasn't just, we're not just talking like, white males or something. I had great conversations with, an Asian couple. I had great conversations with some Canadians. They asked me, actually, this is another quick, funny story. My rental car had California license plates, unfortunately. And they said, where in California are you from? And they're kind of cringing a little bit. And I said, oh, no, I'm not from California. And I said, I'm actually from Pennsylvania. It's just a rental. And they were so thrilled to hear that. They were like, oh, good. We're so glad to hear that. And I said, yeah, I was like, not at all, California. But it was just like amazing to me that I didn't meet anyone that was, I think, even the slightest bit liberal, with the exception of one story, which I won't tell that publicly. I'd have to tell that to the Two Feds and the Truth crew before I reveal that publicly. But just to end, after all the great discussion, just want to make one more final point. I think we really need strong leaders. It's never been more evident than it is now, especially as the left is going after people like, Mike Lindell. Trump and DeSantis are both great examples of those leaders. We're super lucky to have them. But just to reiterate some points that a lot of others made tonight, is that we do have that power as conservatives to help flip one or two independents, or even, drag some of our conservative relatives to the polls, ensure that our friends and family get out to vote. It's never been more important than it is now in this midterm. So I'm really glad that we got to touch on that throughout this space. And I hope you guys all have a great night and that we see you on future podcasts.
All right. Thanks, Julia. I'll be pretty brief here, guys. Big thanks to everybody showing up. Okay. Of course, all my pictures. But then definitely all the likes, shares, and retweets or whatever you have in regards to us and the doctor tonight. There's a little bit of, woke sexual problems, also some racial issues that she wanted to bring up. She's quick to the block button. But, as soon as I made that tweet, I didn't expect it to go as big as it did. So thanks for everybody that did that. Also, we're talking Mike Lindell. Julia described it very well. Okay. We have the code now. We have it. 2 feds. That's it. Okay. Sorry, Julia, but got to keep got to keep it short. So 2 feds. And if you don't want some pillows, if you don't want some some robes, if you don't want some Giza sheets, okay, the softest sheets there are. If you don't want that, that's okay. If you can't handle that, that's okay too. It's tough times in this American, this economy. You can hit the share button, right? You know, the retweet or whatever. And the same thing with the space, also the newsletter, because we do more than just here on the spaces, okay? And like I said, we're approaching 500,000 downloads in just 5 months, which is awesome. I can't even comprehend that. And I love Argentina. Okay, Argentina's we're we're getting serious in Argentina. So amongst other countries, but I just I'm going to give the credit to where credit's due, and that they're leading the way, next to America, of course. So that's it for me, guys. Much appreciated it. Everybody was cool tonight, and we got through it. And I got plenty of monkeys. So crypto, help me out, finish it up.
Yeah, guys, thanks for coming in. I'm trying to see here. So after the United States, Canada is number 2 on downloads. The UK is number 3 on downloads. Argentina fell off. Germany is now.
Oh my God.
Germany is now number 4. Spain is now number 5. India is now number 6. The Czech Republic is number 7. France is number 8. Wow, where the fuck did they go?
I take it back, Argentina. Get your game up. What's going on?
Where's Ukraine? Come on, Ukraine.
Let me check. Let me check.
I really wanted to go to Argentina. I was all about that.
Ukraine is number 18, right behind Turkey and Russia. They are in front of South Africa.
And South Africa is English speaking too, so I'm not impressed.
Our top people here are UK, Germany, Spain, India, Czech Republic, France, Denmark, Guatemala, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Romania, Singapore, Sweden, Colombia, and then it comes out of the thousands there. Anyway, yeah, guys, thanks. As far as the newsletter, Mark runs through it pretty quick. It's I love you guys to death when I say this, but it's kind of like pulling teeth to have you guys to open up the emails that we send and or to sign up with a newsletter. So saying it quick often doesn't get it done. I think we got one person tonight when Mark went through it. So if you can sign up for the newsletter, that would be great. But the other thing, guys, is opening the emails. So our servers aren't free. Our podcast isn't free. And obviously, while other people may reproduce our stuff and sell it, one person sold it. We don't, right? It's just we like doing it and we put it out there. But servers aren't free. All the bandwidth we use isn't free. So opening the emails is the first step in supporting us. Just opening up the email when we send out the newsletter. And then obviously if you see, obviously we're sending it to you to listen to the podcast because we're not really putting it on Twitter anymore. So the point of the newsletter is for you guys to hear the podcast. But there is sponsored content from our sponsor. And if you click on that, a portion of that click comes to us. And as Mark said, we do have a new pillow code. It's up in the nest. It's 2FEDS, so the number 2 FEDS. So you can go to our store, which is, they have a page for us. It's mypillow.com/2FEDS. Or you can just go to mypillow.com. And either way, when you check out, you just have to do the number 2. So numerical number 2, FEDS. And someone posted, they had $180 worth of stuff. It's up on Twitter. They bought $180 worth of stuff and they got $112 off with our discount code, which was like 70%. So if you guys, obviously if you need it, we all need pillows and sheets and stuff like that, but we don't need to go out and just buy it over and over. But if you are going to do it, we have the code for that 2FEDS. Same thing with My Store. So if you go to MYSTORE, mystore.com, same thing. When you check out, put in 2FEDS. My Store is interesting. It's got a lot of patriotic stuff, all by patriotic USA small vendors. So they got a lot of quirky stuff on there. Actually, it's kind of like a really small Walmart. Like it has a bunch of everything on it. So again, you guys don't have to buy anything, of course, but if you do, you can use the code to save money. I have no idea what we get on that. I have literally no idea. I spoke to the people. We got our codes. We haven't gotten any money from any of that stuff. I have no idea what the breakdown is on that or when we get paid or how we get paid. There's still a bunch of paperwork I have to do on that. So, so all of that goes to keep the servers running and things like that. So, We have our websites, we have our servers, and obviously we have our podcast platform. So, podcast is not making anyone rich or really paying, not paying any bills. We could probably go buy like a Coke at like Publix with it, probably. But outside of that, we just do it because we want to do it. And then we've expanded, right? So we've tried. It's a lot of work though. So, but yeah, we're still doing the Twitter Spaces. We love you all. We thank you all. Have a great week to everyone. And trying to think this week on the podcast, we're trying to do Tuesday, Thursdays, because as of right now, I'm teaching at night. So as far as the podcast goes, if I can pull up the calendar, I know that Michael was put on the spot. Tuesday night, we have Tom Sawyer, Sauer. Tom Sawyer's on Tuesday. On Thursday, we have Charles Love. Next Thursday, we have Low Key Ray. Next Thursday, the 29th. Then on Friday, the 30th, we have Gabs, who is in here tonight. And then Tuesday, October 4th, we have professional boxer Ed Lattimore, October 4th. October 6th, we have Mike Davis, who's been breaking all the stuff on Twitter with the Judge Cannon Trump case. He was a clerk to Neil Gorsuch. And then October 11th, we have Lou Perez. And people just keep coming and we keep going. So we're into mid-October. So appreciate you all. And if there's anything that I can ask, which, I have some shame, but not really.
Hey,
right?
Crypto.
So, like, my shame was lost
Crypto.
a while ago. Yeah,
Quick question. It sounds like you have 3 jobs.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, my point is, usually I don't ask of things, but I'm asking for this on behalf of everyone. Is opening. I'm not asking you to buy anything. If you want to buy shit, we have a code you can use. With that said, I am asking to open our newsletter emails if you want to. Otherwise, you can unsubscribe. It's absolutely fine. If you want to get them, please open them. And if you can give our sponsor a click, that's what allows us to continue on with the podcast and servers. That's really the biggest ask that I have. So, our list is growing. It's getting bigger. If you unsubscribe, that's fine, guys. We'll be fine, but that is my ask. My ask is, can you please open it? Because out of the 2,000 so far that I send out, only about 500 people open them. So we have 1,500 emails going out that are never even opened. So, impressions mean a lot to us and to our sponsor. So if you guys, and again, if you haven't ever moved it over from your spam or promotional folder, they're probably still over there. I was talking with Mark this weekend and he had to find his in his spam and promotional folder.
Yeah, it made a big difference. Now I'm clicking all the time.
So if you move it over there, so it's going to come from newsletter@cryptolawyer.vip. That's where our website is. That's where our server runs. And if you move it over one time, then you'll see it in your primary box or your inbox the rest of the other times. Otherwise, you're going to have a shitload in your promotional or social box or spam folder. So that's my ask. I usually don't do asks, but the fact that we're growing and me are incurring bills here, I'm asking that they're opened and you guys check it out, because we're trying to keep the pod on the newsletter and not really just put it out to Twitter for everyone to reproduce, because we're running into issues on that. All right, guys, that's it. Have a great week. Love you all. We'll see you soon. Talk soon, guys. Good night.